Hello, BOL fans. Welcome to the last week of the Platinum League regular season. Our last match before playoffs will feature the number one team, the still undefeated Conduit Gremlins, against their last opponent of the round robin, sixth place Big Duck Entourage. The Gremlins have lost 3 games over the last 8 weeks, one to their sister team, the Conduit Kecklers, in week 5, one to Agni Kai in week 7, and one to the second place team, Dynasty Celestials, who were their week 8 opponent. While CG have been pushed by some of the other top of the table teams, they have been incredibly dominant overall and come in tonight as the heavy favorites. For the Big Bird Brigade, we were pretty concerned for them after watching them get shot down 2 games in a row last week by Agni Kai, but fortunately for the Ducks, the other 2 teams that were fighting them for that last playoff spot, the formerly nameless Legion and the Conduit Kecklers, both also lost 0-2. So, as we move into this 9th and final week of the regular split, the Entourage are locked into top 6 with playoffs guaranteed. Bringing you the call from the BOL production room, my name is Crewman44, and we are bringing back the astute Mr. Alls for this last week of regular season. Mr. Alls, how you doing?
Man, it's a pleasure to be here. I was on BOL Emerald last night casting their semifinals, and I'll likely be on BOL Gold tomorrow as well, so I've been working just about everywhere. We had a fun best of 5 last night. 3 pretty open and shut games as the team who had taken out the only team undefeated in the regular season was just shut down. So, looking to see how this game goes as well. I mean, as you said, there's not a whole lot riding on this particular match. Conduit's pretty well locked at the top of the table, and BDE, best they can do is knock themselves up to maybe the 5th or 4th position here if everything else goes well elsewhere in the league. So it's mostly about playing for pride here and having a little bit of fun, which, in my experience, tends to make for more fun matches.
Yeah, absolutely. You are certainly right that the Conduit Gremlins, they are locked into first place at this point. Even if they do lose a 0-2 to the Ducks here, they are still going to have that first place position at the end of the regular season. For the Ducks, there is an outside chance they could squeak up into 5th. They would have to win 2-0 against the undefeated Conduit Gremlins, and they would also need Goon Squad to lose 0-2 to the Conduit Kecklers. So a bit of an ask there, but certainly within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, anything is possible. This is BOL Plat, and Chaos thrives down here. Hoping to get into pick ban here soon, but we've seen a lot of BDE over the course of this season. Is there anything that you're expecting them to bring out in the picks tonight, in the team comps, or just in the overall game plan?
Ooh, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Outrage's Ari has definitely been standout. I expect that to probably get banned away. We could touch on the patch a little bit as well. They attempted to nerf Ari. I don't really know how successful they were in that attempt. So probably still pretty strong, the pick. That is one thing that I think we can look out for. But I mean, overall, I think the Big Ducks, they brought out a variety of picks. But really, the main thing that we're looking to see from them, and I think the main thing that they struggled with last week in their matchup against Agni Kai, was really mostly just coordination and making sure that they were all on the same page. I think that is the main thing that we need to be looking out for this squad as we move into that postseason.
Yeah, coordination, such a big thing. It was what really unfortunately shot down Conduit GG last night, so proof positive that it is incredibly crucial for teams to always be on the same page week after week. It's a hard ask though, crewman, as we do get into pick bans and Azir first off the table for the Gremlins.
Yeah, and we're talking about coordination. The Big Ducks obviously did have some roster changes over the course of the season. They've had the same starting 5 for the past few weeks now, so not totally unreasonable to expect that they'd be able to make some progress in that department. But looking at their opponents, across on the other side of the rift here, the Gremlins have had the same starting 5 all season long, and they've obviously looked phenomenal the whole way through. So it's definitely, I think, Looking for the win might be a little bit overambitious for the Big Ducks, but maybe they can draw some inspiration from their opponents. And at the very least, whatever happens tonight, I think going back and looking at the tape should be valuable for them as we do look towards those playoffs. It's likely going to be, assuming that the Big Ducks do stay in the sixth place spot, it probably will be Gremlins versus Big Ducks for the first round of playoffs. That is likely to be the matchup. So, it's going to be really interesting as well to see, especially with that in mind, how this best of three is going to go and what the odds of the Ducks are going to look like, in that best of five that we likely see next week.
Yeah, and I am looking here. We have gotten confirmation, crewman, that despite the fact that the ESUB bans have been waived, Conduit Gremlin is running on a modified roster tonight. They have their standard top laner and mid laner, but in the jungle is substitute Jake MWP. We also have Not So Dark, their normal ADC, moving back down to the support position. I do believe we've seen this a couple of times when BAM has stepped in to the ADC, but it's still a lot of shifting around and could cause some of those communication issues we were worried about for BDE on this side of the Rift.
Yeah, very true, very true. And I think it is excellent that you point that out, Oz. That is absolutely something we are going to need to keep in mind for this matchup tonight. It's not the actual starting five for the Gremlins taking the Rift this evening. They're going to go for the Senna here on the B1 as the Jinx and the Jhin were both banned away by the Ducks on red side. Ahri still available. Maybe Outrage is going to look towards it. Maybe they want to match bot lane here. We'll see.
Yeah, Ahri doesn't really have any great counters at the moment. There's nothing that just completely stomps her in lane. Nothing that can really match the roams except for perhaps something like the Talia with the Weaver's Wall. So very safe, very capable of controlling, but they're going to go for the Varus first. Don't want to potentially lose any more ADC priority. It goes well into the Senna in the early game, but as you start to get later in, that range advantage that the Varus has starts to chip away bit by bit.
Yeah. The Senna is obviously going to outscale eventually. It's likely going to be the fasting Senna, as both Nautilus and Tahm Kench still available, and we know, of course, that both are incredibly strong pairings for the Senna and really allow her to opt into that fasting style to great effect, as the Skarner is going to come through here as well. Skarner, another champion that was touched a little bit on this patch, but you were saying as well also that those Skarner nerfs you feel like aren't really sufficient to take him out of the meta.
Yeah, look, the thing about Skarner isn't his damage, right? You don't pick Skarner to blow people up. He's a tank. Whatever. And you don't pick Skarner for his Q, for his little rock toss. Sure, the slow is great. But what you're picking Skarner for is the fact that he is the reincarnation of Zac. He has a wonderful E button that lets him gank from incredibly strange angles, and not only gank from strange angles, but suppress, displace, and stun multiple people. That is a ton of value in a single ability. And frankly, I don't think that Riot is ever going to be able to touch him in a way that will completely remove him from the meta unless they gut him in the way that they have to do Zeri or Nyla or any of these champions that just define the game around them.
Yeah, certainly. So strong praise for the Skarner there. Certainly he has been very powerful recently. We'll see what the Ducks are going to be able to get done with the pick this time around. I feel like as we've seen more and more Skarner, he started to become more common in the jungle. At first, everybody was playing him top lane, but feels like most people have decided at this point that the jungle Skarner is actually a little bit more powerful. We'll see where the Ducks decide to send the Scorpion. As the Cho'Gath, likely, I have a feeling that this is actually going bot lane alongside the Senna. Could obviously still go top lane, but that's kind of my gut instinct, Dolls, is that's the Senna Cho bot lane. We are going to see the Thresh come out on the R3 for the Big Ducks.
Yeah, the Cho'Gath bot lane feels like a great pick to me. Has a lot of the same powers that a TK or an Ornn would have, with lots of displacement, lots of disengage, and plenty of tank stats to stand there in the front. Also scales incredibly well. The feast stacks may not be as powerful in the modern day with Heartsteel or what have you helping to boost those health pools, but still 70 to 150 health basically for free on a 60-second cooldown, plus a 3 to 600 health execute on a high priority target, such as, say, I don't know, the only damage dealing champion on BDE so far, that's kind of a big deal, my friend.
Yeah, that certainly can be. And Cho'Gath, of course, also a champion that does scale very, very well with gold. So that is, going to look pretty good alongside the center for that reason as well. We are through the second ban phase now. It's Trundle and Silas removed by the Gremlins. They don't want Outrage stealing away that Cho'Gath ultimate. I think that is a pretty reasonable ban to go for. And then the Maokai and the Yone going to get taken away by the Big Ducks.
The
Now let's
R
see
is
the
still
opportunity.
available.
It is, but it looks like we're not going to go for it.
Vigar. I like Vigar into engaged junglers like the Vi, like the Xinjiao, like even, say, the Rek'Sai, where they're moving in but their movement can be interrupted. J4 cannot be interrupted. He is just about the only champion in the game whose self-displacement, without being explicitly uninterruptible, will continue to displace him, because it is not a movement spell. It is a displacement of self. So that means that event horizon is not protection for the Vigar. Leaves him very vulnerable to ganks and could be very nice for Jake PWM here.
Yeah, the Jarvan will, of course, still be stunned after he finishes displacing himself. But that is a very valid point, Alls, that the Veigar could be knocked up during that same time frame that the Jarvan is stunned. So definitely an interesting pick for Outrage to go for. And then the response, it does feel pretty powerful from the Gremlins here. The Aurelion Soul should be able to outrange the Veigar in lane and also match his scaling. And then we're going for the Blind Camille in the top lane.
I don't love Camille Blind. I think it's fine. Right? You've got enough tank in front already with the Cho'Gath and Jarvan, and there's nothing wrong with picking a split pusher here. But BDE already has the tank in the Skarner. They don't need to pick a Giga tank that Camille can abuse. They can pick something like the Mordekaiser, which will just stand toe-to-toe with the Camille, and make sure that split push threat is just a whimper rather than a bang.
Yeah, definitely. Feels like the R5 Mordekaiser is pretty powerful here as well. Should be able to do a decent job of matching the Camille in the side lane. Does mean that the Ducks are a little bit AP heavy, but
True.
They should have some consistent physical damage, assuming that the Varus does go on hit.
Yeah, at this point you're kind of pigeonholed into it. Not that it's awful anyway, especially into the Cho'Gath early before that health pool stacks up. You can shred through them. But at the end of the day, they should still have a very good front to back with Skarner and Mordekaiser up front and Veigar and, Varus shredding through. The big thing here is going to be making sure that J4 and Camille don't get onto that backside of the fight. As long as they can zone well, they should win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do tend to agree, Alls. I am definitely inclined to agree here. It's a little bit unfortunate because usually Veigar, when Veigar is in the game, he is going to be, whichever team he's on is likely the stronger scaling team because he does stack infinitely. But unfortunately for Veigar, there are two champions that stack infinitely on the other side this time around. So playing the long game, not necessarily actually going to go in his favor. And I do think that there is going to be some pressure on the Big Ducks to get something done early on. As a result, it can be difficult, though, as it doesn't feel like they have those early game tools as much as actually, ironically, what the Gremlins have with the J4. So,
I'm not sure I agree, man. You just got to get to level 3 with that Skarner.
Okay, yeah, you're really high on the Skarner right now, and I certainly can see why. I definitely think that there is a chance that the Skarner, can find that early advantage. I guess we'll just have to see which one of these junglers is going to be able to make something happen early on. I mean, where do you think that they're going to prioritize? If we do assume that both the Jarvan and the Skarner are going to be looking to make some early action happen, where do you think that might be taking place?
I think Conduit's going to maybe look towards the top side. Aurelion Sol and Senna are both going to scale regardless of what BDE does, but getting that Camille out early and making Mordekaiser unable to match, as hard as that might be as a proposition, but getting 1,000, 1,500 gold ahead to where Camille can consistently bully despite the fact that Mordekaiser is a more favorable matchup, would be a huge win for Conduit and give them the ability to pull BDE apart and not let them take those front-to-back fights where they'll be best. So that's the target for them. Over on the BDE side, I think a lot of the pressure is going to be in that bot side, actually. They're going to want to get that Varus ahead because, as you called out, this is an AP-heavy team. This is a team that needs some of that AD to come back to balance it out, to make it hard for Cho'Gath and J4 to itemize here as they head to late and start being those beefy frontliners. Besides which, Varus just works very well when he's ahead, when he has the ability to sit in the back line and free fire. And the gank paths, especially through that blue side tri-bush, are great, even without the Skarner E. I mean, you could do the same thing on Sejuani, right? Just walk through. Just say, sure, you guys didn't ward properly, had a dark spot for a solid 30 seconds, and that just means 2 free kills for me.
Yeah, certainly a possibility. It definitely does feel like that is going to be the most reliable setup. I mean, Thresh not necessarily known for being the most reliable setup, but I think it certainly can work against a melee target like the Cho'Gath, right, who's going to have to walk up to hit that minion wave. So if the Senate Cho are out of position at any point in the lane and their vision coverage in that all-important tri-brush does lapse, absolutely could see the Skarner getting in there to make something happen. You know, as far as the patch is concerned, you know, we already discussed Skarner a little bit hit on this patch. I don't think any of these other champions were really touched. Was there anything else at all in the patch that you feel like is worth kind of thinking about or taking note of before we get into this first game?
There's not a ton worth mentioning here. I think the only thing that might be a good call out for this Conduit squad in particular is the fact that Maul was fairly buffed, especially for champions like Camille. The power has been changed. Even though the gold cost has gone up a little bit, I don't think the value is diminished. And into a team that is Mordekaiser, Vygar, and even the Varus, a lot of the damage on his W is still that AP, the magic damage. So Camille getting that second, third item would really help boost her power and her longevity in these team fights.
Yeah, they did slightly reduce the magic resist on Ma as well, but overall, I think definitely a buff. I mean, it gives ability haste now and Omnivamp, I believe. So definitely a really powerful item. I think that would be a great purchase for the Camille this game for sure, especially laning against the Mordekaiser, right? At the very least, going for an early Hex Drinker probably would make a lot of sense. But I think we're pretty much done with our draft discussion here. Last thing to really touch on all is if you have a prediction for this first game. Which draft would you rather play on?
Ooh, that is tough. That is a great question, and I think at the end of the day, I give a slight nod to BDE, but I think it's somewhere in that range of 55-45. I think Conduit has a very good chance of pulling this out if they don't let BDE play to their win conditions early or play the team fights better late.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Skarner will be the difference. You know, we'll just have to wait and see. I think overall, it has been a reasonably good season for Extinction. I think Extinction has looked better as well since Outrage has joined the squad. I do feel like they've kind of been building up that synergy. So maybe the Skarner is going to be able to make something happen. There's a little bit of synergy there as well, actually, with the Event Horizon. You can use the Skarner to push people into the edge of the cage, right? So that could be a fun interaction to look out for. But overall, you know, I think we do have to say that with the nameplates on, the Gremlins, again, are coming in as the heavy favorites. They've looked so good all season long. And we'll see if they can take this first game or if the Big Ducks have something else in store for us. Don't go anywhere, guys. Short break and then game number 1. Gentlemen, welcome on to Summoner's Rift for our first game of the night, our first game of the last week of the regular season here in BOL Plat. Conduit Gremlins on the blue side for this first game, the Big Duck Entourage on the red. We did briefly mention earlier on, Jake MWP, not the starting jungler for the Gremlins over there, and Bam subbing in for them as well. We do also need to mention big news subbing in the top lane for the side of the Ducks. Of course, they usually have Vendetta up there in the top side. So at least one sub on both sides does kind of explain why we did waive those bans. Also.
Yeah, although Big News is a listed sub, so it wouldn't have had any ban effect anyway, but still a nice gesture of sportsmanship here from the Big Duck Entourage. Just wanting to play this game fair and square all the way through, which is always nice to see.
Absolutely. Are we seeing any runes or summoner spells that you feel like we should be taking note of here at the level 1 mark?
Well, I think we have to be very grateful for the fact that we are seeing the lethal tempo on TDK, because that means that this is, in fact, going to be the on-hit Varus, which is something we were very concerned about, because that needs to be that AD threat. Also kind of interesting seeing that Glacial Augment on the Thresh. It's not rare by any stretch of the imagination, but still does work a little bit differently than the Guardian, does have a little different feel in regards to how this lane plays, and it'll be interesting whether Bam and Not So Dark are thrown off or punished by it in any way.
Only we'll have to see. It feels like the Glacial Augment could get a lot of value in this matchup, but the Rupture going to land there for Dark. And have to say, oh my god, the top lane, what's going on? Okay, first blood of June. Not sure how that happened, but all right.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure myself. I glanced over and the health bars were already super low. I believe it was just some hyper-aggression from Big News. Didn't quite calculate the damage numbers, and June, with that empowered second Q, was able to shred through what little health Big News had left.
Yeah, and you were talking a little bit in the draft halls about how important it is, or how, impactful it can be if the Camille does get ahead. This is usually, obviously, a very difficult matchup for the Camille. But if she gets first blood and starts to build up a lead, definitely could be a different story.
Yeah, turns out, winning the lane helps you win games. Kind of a wild thought that I don't think Riot has fully considered, but we'll see whether that can continue, as Extinction looking here on the bot side.
Skarner getting face checked. Nice root from the Senna. Rupture going to land there as well, and the Scorpion just made it look a little bit silly.
Yeah, however, on the top side, Jake looking for a gank here. Big News doesn't have the pull. This should be a death.
Oh, using the flash pretty early there. June might go down the obliterate. It is enough. Big News able to take one with him, but the Mordekaiser will fall as well, and the Camille is going to be able to teleport back up here in just a moment.
Yeah, and Jake even holding the cannon minion outside the range of the turret. That's a good jungler. That's a jungler you give all of the honors to in the post game, because a lot of folks will just walk away. They'll go back to farming camps and not realize exactly how much that helped.
Yeah, absolutely. A nice gesture there from Jake. And yeah, the junglers, they did start on opposite sides, obviously. It was the Skarner pathing down, the Jarvan pathing up. Jarvan able to find some success. Skarner, not so much, at least not so far. The Scuttle Crabs will be traded off.
Yeah, even trade on that. Skarner, obviously, with the pressure on the bot side, is going to take that one. But we're starting to see Not So Dark getting zoned away from this wave a little bit. It's hard for the Cho'Gath to farm here with the threat of Titan and TVK going in and the threat of Extinction coming back for a repeat gank. Gonna be interesting to see exactly how much gold this Cho'Gath can get from being the farmer down here, and whether it's actually gonna have a whole ton of impact, as Outrage is looking for a wild gank path here at just level 5.
Yeah, a little bit low on mana as well, but should have enough for at least one combo. In comes Titan. Gonna look to set this one up. Event Horizon comes down onto both of them. The stun comes through onto Dark. Senna flashed away. Not going to stay alive, though. The piercing arrow from TDK will find its mark. Dark in trouble now as well. Flashing away, trying to stay alive. Flashing forward is Outrage. Oh, the dodge away on the Dark Matter. The baleful strike. Not quite enough range. Looks like Dark will be able to survive as GVG teleporting down here to defend.
Yeah, should take the Drake here, though. No, they're pulling back. They're looking for GVG, who walked too far forward. He's going to go
Way
down
too
here.
far forward. Is going to go down absolutely right, Alls. As you say, it was going to be the Thresh flashing in there for that last auto attack. And that is going to be the end of the Aurelion Soul. So now both sums down for GVG, not able to really make any impact in that bot lane.
Yeah,
So it's given over a kill.
Outrage did not burn the TP, obviously, walked all the way down for that fight, which means that now has a ton more capacity to put out pressure or just TP back to lane and make use of this advantage in great shape already. The Drake take as well. This is a really, really high tempo start for this BDE squad who really needed it if they were going to set the tone for this scaling comp that they have picked.
Yeah, definitely a nice start for them. Things were looking a little bit dicey as, you know, the Mordekaiser was killed so early on there, but they're really able to answer back in a big way in that bot lane, thanks to, as we mentioned, a nice roam from Outrage. Although it looks like the early neutrals will also be traded. So that first dragon going over to the Ducks, and it will be, it looks like, all 3 grubs over to the Gremlins.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, it's been a couple of patches at this point, but a while back they did update those grubs. It's now just 4, not 5, that are necessary to spawn the Twitch chatters. So a little bit of extra ease of execution on that second take, not having to get more than half of them. So it should be fairly easy to set up Jun to be a solid split pusher here with the extra power.
Absolutely. You know, assuming that the Camille can continue to do well in this matchup, right? Big News was able to get 1 kill back, you know, on that last attempt from Jake. So certainly not a done deal, this top lane. We'll see what June is able to get done as we move further in through the early game.
For now, though, the game has slowed down. No objectives on the map for about 4 minutes. And crewman, do you think we're going to keep seeing some fighting, or are they just going to go ahead and handshake here for the next few minutes?
I mean, both teams have really strong scaling elements, right? So it wouldn't surprise me to see them, you know, play this first game out a little bit more cautiously. Even the on-hit Varus, you know, scales reasonably well. Is eventually, of course, going to be outranged by the Senna, but, you know, the Varus is going to be doing quite a bit of damage, you know, once he does get towards those 3-4 completed items. So I think that these teams absolutely could go late if they feel like they don't have any angles presenting themselves.
Definitely makes a lot of sense here. Fighting continues in the top side as Jun.
So that's going to be the Death's Grasp. That is going to set up for the Death Realm as well. Sidestep on that first Obliterate with Camille in a whole bunch of trouble. As what is the Camille going to be able to get done? She flashes away from that last Q. The hook shot as well creates some space. Running on towards the wrong side of the Rift. But maybe we'll be able to sneak away as the fight in the bot lane. EQ lands. Jake finds Titan with the trade back as TDK takes down the Cho'Gath. Trapped in the Cataclysm now. Flashes away from the Aurelion Soul ultimate. Jake going down low. Triple kill over to TDK. And GVG's all out of mana. Can't continue fighting. Should be able to at least make it underneath the turret, except maybe another event horizon. It comes off cooldown for Outrage. The damage starts to come through the Dark Matter. Not going to land. It's not going to matter as the Aurelion Soul stepped into the side of the cage at the last moment. And that's going to be number 1 for Outrage.
Yeah, that is huge. Now 4-0-2 on this Varus. The Vigar equally scaled up at already 81 stacks. It just goes from bad to worse to even worse here, crewman. And yeah, Jake was able to pick up a single kill onto Titan there towards the start of that fight, but that is small potatoes in comparison to the triple kill on TDK, now firmly in the driver's seat here in the spot lane.
Oh yeah, so huge for the Varus. He is going to be incredibly strong. Going for the Berserker's Greaves instead of the first completed item, but I think that does make a good amount of sense when you need to be sidestepping Cho'Gath Qs and things like that.
Yeah, and will be easier here in the team fights when we start to move away from the laning phase, and even in about 90 seconds here around the next Drake to get away from the potential dive of the Camille and the J4. So valuable buy as long as that movement speed is made use of. Titan with the Mobies looking to roam as well.
Yeah, Thresh with a little bit of a look towards the mid lane here with those mobility boots, as you mentioned. So looking to play for the map is Titan, not necessarily for the lane, as we can see. Now moving up towards this top lane, actually, where the top laners scrapping once again. Big News has those steel caps completed, and a little bit of a garage sale for June, going for the Sheen and the Tiamat, interestingly.
Yeah, I mean, the Sheen is such great combat power for the Camille early that it makes sense to pick it up when you're ahead in the lane and want to try and accelerate that. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to really do so, as now down about 15 CS actually, but just
Oh,
early.
maybe
Hello?
something here. No, Outrage has the Shurelias and going to be able to use that move speed to sidestep on the Rupture. And actually wants to try and turn this one around. Dark now is going down pretty low. That Dark Matter will land. Primordial Burst available for the Veigar, as on the other side of the map, the Grubs are getting secure. So it looks like, oh, flashing forward, Dark looking for it, finds the silence, but the ultimate's not quite enough, and Outrage is going to be able to turn it around. Oh, a little bit over-aggressive there from the Cho'Gath, and Veigar is going to be laughing maniacally straight to the bank.
Yeah, and not going to get pressured here by the Roam, as it looks like Conduit more interested in this Drake, but the collapse is coming, so they're going to have to take this very rapidly, unless BDE just decides that mid-wave is more important.
Aurelion Soul does do a lot of damage to these objectives, so they are going to be able to burst it down in time. 1-1 now in terms of Dragons teleport in for the not the Camille, that was the Cho'Gath teleporting in. And
look at where Outrage is, though.
Yeah, the Event Horizons is going to find the stun onto the Cho'Gath. Death Sentence not going to find the mark, though. The Skarner ultimate is going to impale the Jarvan, and the EQ is not going to work out. Too far away there on the flag, and that is going to be yet another kill going the way of the Big Ducks.
Yeah, Outrage continuing to scale up here, and you don't think of the Veigar as the flanking threat, crewman, but it has worked out very well so far in multiple repeated fights. So maybe something we have to look out for more in the future is, okay.
Oh, man. We just keep missing these solo kills in the top lane.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's hard. There was, we had just finished that fight on the bot side. There's no way that we could have expected that. Cataclysm onto 2. TDK does not quite have the flash just yet. He's stuck in there, and Aurelion Soul is going to breathe on him. It's a double kill over to GVG, and that might just bring the Gremlins back into it.
Yeah, nice kills onto the Aurelion Soul, who, just like this Veigar, will scale up very well into the mid and late game. And for Jake getting a little bit more pressure onto the map. J4 is an early game champion. You want to get that pressure and just hasn't had a ton of it outside of a few good ganks. So nice to see some more coming through.
Yeah, able to get that set up. The double lockdown with the R for Aurelion Soul to come in and clean up. Really nicely done. And, of course, was able to have that early impact on the top lane as well. Unfortunately, June not really able to run with that. Did lose two turret plates to the Mordekaiser as well after that last solo kill came through. So definitely a pretty significant advantage for Big News at this point, who does have the Riftmaker done.
Yeah, Riftmaker, 20 CS lead, couple of kills under their belt. Feeling all right on this Mordekaiser despite the early pressure. And the game is far from over for Conduit, right? They can sit and wait for 40 minutes when Camille has full build, when GVG is stacked to infinity, when Bam and Not So Dark are basically untouchable as a bot lane duo, but until then it's going to be awkward. They're going to be having to play a lot of defense, and I'm curious to see if they try and do that, or if they continue to be a little bit aggressive in trying to pick these fights.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully for the Gremlins, if they are going to go for that more defensive, game plan from this point, and look at what, oh my goodness, that was a blast cone that you could take. We are going to find the knockup, but there is that stun going to come through immediately after this Cataclysm onto 2. It's Outrage in trouble going down low, but it's the Jarvan who goes down first, and the Impale is going to connect onto Bam. The Sun flashed away, trying to stay alive. Now GVG, that was maybe a little bit too far forward. The Death Sentence has to be flashed by the Aurelion Soul. In comes June, though, on the flank. Camille able to execute the Skarner, and now Outrage is in a very precarious position, is going to get shut down by the Cho'Gath. It looked good at the start of that one for the Big Ducks, but in the end, it's going to be the Gremlins coming in from both sides. Big News able to get one back onto the Senna, trap that enemy AD carrying the Death Realm, but now the Mordekaiser is going to get shut down as well, as the 4 for 2, I believe, comes through, and the Gremlins find a team fight win.
It's not over yet.
It is absolutely not over, as the sweeping strike there from the Camille. What's the name on that Camille W?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Tactical sweep. It's tactical sweep.
There you go. Let's see.
Well, whatever it's called, it did land, and that is going to mean that TDK is going to be just fine.
Yeah, they pick up the Rift Herald on the back of that as well. Well, I said we shouldn't expect aggression from Conduit, and that wasn't exactly aggression. That was more Jake taking a really awkward blast cone and happening to get bailed out by his team.
It's almost like he heard what you said and was like, "No, Alls, we are gonna fight. Watch this." And
I
then he
can astral project my voice 3 minutes into the past. It's a very niche skill, but I use it a lot in casting.
Yeah, I mean that's why we have you cast so much, right? It is such a unique skill, and we do really value that here at the Blue Water League. So good looks there, Alls. Nicely done. And in the end, nicely done from Jake as well. It looked a little bit scary at first, but able to set the team up for a big win, and they are going to close that gold deficit down to just 500.
Yeah, and these solo lanes starting to scale in pretty terrifying ways for Conduit. The Camille quite large, the Aurelion Soul doing well as Jun is forced to use that hookshot very defensively at max range to get away from a 3-man dive here. Feels
Well, it
like
doesn't hurt anymore. So.
Yeah. Feels like BDE kind of needs to regain control of this game by picking a couple of good fights, but it's getting harder to find angles as they don't have the vision anymore.
Yeah. It's we need another flank from the Veigar, I think is really what we need. It's gonna put the cage down, just trying to create some zone control for this Dragon take. It looks like we do have a Chemtech Soul this game, so not the most highly prized of the souls, but regardless, the Gremlins going to be moving in here, but that's going to be a hook landing onto the jungler. Jake's going to go down right at the start of this one. Oh, does get the Cataclysm down at least, and that is going to cause the Skarner to also fall, so both junglers taking down Outrage in trouble now on that flank. The Veigar trying to get it done, sidestep on the Rupture. Is it going to be enough? June's going to have another hook shot coming off cooldown. Whoa, whiffs it! Outrage managing to survive, and big news on the other side of the fight, takes down the Senna. So now what do we got? Just a 2 for 2 is all that's left. Dark. Oh, that Rupture's going to be flashed by the Mordekaiser. Does Big News have the damage, though? That Scratch is going to be dodged away. June, I don't know what that flash was. Outrage barely surviving. Still, that Rupture's not quite going to land. Oh, just barely. I think that was the Pharaoh's scream from the Cho'Gath that finally got the kill onto Outrage. But Big News able to clean it up in a big way.
Yeah, it's an extended 5 for 4, but the fight isn't over. The Drake survives. There's still going to be contestation around this Drake. Here comes CVG.
CVG is able to take down the Mordekaiser, but now is getting pinned into the wall by Extinction. It's just Skarner and Thresher. They don't have the most damage, but they do have enough. That's Extinction flashing forward to get that last hit on the enemy mid laner. Jake is back, though. There is a smite in the vicinity for the Gremlins. Are they still looking to contest for this objective? So much fighting just over this first Chemtech Dragon. This is absolute madness. We've got the teleport coming in. Once again, it's not so dark this time around. The Beast still on cooldown. Let's see how the fight goes, though. That's going to be the CC onto the Cho'Gath. The Dragon does go over. It's stolen away by Jake's Jarvan. Dark will have to be sacrificed, though. That's not quite enough range over the wall there. Bam, just about able to get out of the way of that event horizon as well. So, I mean, who knows, really, what the result of that fight was at the end of the day. But I guess the Chemtech Dragon did go to the Gremlins. So, there you go.
Yeah, at the end of the day, everybody won, and your throat lost after having to cast, what was that, 15 kills over the course of those 3 fights?
I lost count. Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, overall, though, speaking truly here, BDE regaining a little bit of the tempo, got a few more kills out of that fight, didn't catch the Drake as Jake was able to steal that, but they got good pressure here in the mid lane. That's going to fall very soon. They've made it harder for this Conduit squad to drop that Rift Herald effectively. The timer is running a little bit low on that, so we'll need to be spawning that here fairly soon, which makes them a little bit predictable.
It does indeed. And likely you want to put that in the mid lane, right? To try to break open that tier 1. So, even more predictable in that regard. But we'll see. Maybe Jake has other plans for Shelly. As GVG, we see now matching the Mordekaiser in the top lane, as the Camille was struggling a bit.
Yeah, should have a little bit of an easier time into the Veigar, who is fairly strong, has the Shurelya's, has the fully stacked Seraphs, but still working on that death cap. How many stacks? 250, so sitting at a solid 500 AP now, which is not bad.
Yeah, certainly not bad at all. The Herald will indeed be dropped into the mid lane here. So we do have the side of the Big Ducks in position to defend. The charge itself not quite going to take down this turret. So, I guess expected value from Shelly.
Yeah, still fairly disappointing in the grand scheme of things. You would have liked to have been able to actually take down that turret. You would have liked to be able to look for that charge number 2 onto the mid tier 2. So, again, weaker than you want a Rift Herald to be, but this is the result of BDE having more or less won that fight around the Drake. The fact there wasn't any opportunity to make use of the objective they had taken a few minutes back.
I mean, yeah, you say that. I have to wonder if maybe there was an opportunity before the Gremlins positioned for that extremely elongated fight. If Jake could have actually put Shelly in the mid lane at the onset of that, but I guess that wasn't a possibility. I'm not quite sure. You know, Jake obviously was trying to get in there to contest as quickly as possible, but yeah, Shelly value not the greatest. We are going to see a next dragon in just a couple of minutes' time, so gonna do it again most likely also.
Yeah, Baron is up. Neither team in positioning super strongly around it, though, so doesn't seem like that'll be contested here in the near future. A little bit surprising, given how little push power both of these teams seem to have, that they wouldn't go for that mega boost at this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, as we mentioned earlier, they do have very nice scaling on both sides, so the longer that we go into the game, the stronger both teams are going to become pretty significantly. So in that regard, you know, I think it's fair to say that neither side really has great control over the game right now. It is still relatively close, so going for a Baron start at this point, I think, would be somewhat risky.
And GVG maybe in a little bit of trouble here, but able to glide away through the mid lane. And does Conduit finally take down this turret after so much headache? Looks like the answer is going to be yes, right? But boy, it took them a while, huh?
Yeah, they did get it eventually, and that is going to really open things up for trying to set up control around these neutral objectives, right? Their own Tier 1 is still standing, just barely, but it's standing. And as long as they can maintain control over this mid wave, they should be able to get priority over whichever of the map they desire.
Yeah, already doing so. Bam and Jake moving in as a ward kill squad here to clear out vision, make this river solidly blue, as you can see lit up all around this Baron. Makes it very hard for the BDE to try and do anything, as instead they're focusing around this Drake, wanting to contest that scaling as Jake is walking blind.
Oh, barely able to get away with the EQ there. A little surprised Extinction actually didn't go for the Impale. I think maybe would have been able to get the Jarvan, but Jake will be able to get away. This Dragon spawning in just 15 seconds. Both teams clearly want to contest for this one once again.
Titan maybe looking for a hook over the wall, but starting to get a little bit low, and that's problematic because you don't have the numbers advantage here. You're fairly even with GVG on the backside, waiting for the TV from Big News, but are they just not contesting this? Are they going to be willing to go 2 Drakes to 2? Nah, there they finally rotate down.
I mean, this is remarkably similar to how that last Dragon fight started. Both top laners with TP as the Gremlins move in to try to establish some control, and they are going to get it as the Ducks pushed out towards the bottom side. Flashing forward is Extinction, finds the Impale onto 2. The Event Horizon comes down as well for the follow-up. Dark flashing out of that Event Horizon, trying to stay alive, but Jake's behind of this fight, and Big News has teleported in. That is going to be the kill onto the Cho'Gath as well. Can June save the fight? Absolutely not. June's going to get taken down there as well. A decisive win for the Big Ducks, as now GVG is going to get pulled in here as well. TDK on a killing spree, and the Ducks just absolutely wiped their opponents in that one.
Yeah, a 4-for-1 in that fight, and it looked like it could have been so good. That was a great Impale early, but only found tanks. Brought Jake in towards the rest of the team. He was able to get a good Cataclysm down, but they haven't scaled. GVG didn't have enough damage on the Star Call. Bam wasn't really able to follow up, and with the fact that this Senna is still slowly scaling with the stacks, doesn't have as much gold value because of going for that fasting style, means that they're reliant on June to be a lot of that 80 damage, and that Camille was very late to the fight there. That TP was not until after Jake and Not So Dark were already dead, I believe.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I think those were the most critical aspects of that last team fight. One, it was a really phenomenal engage from Extinction, really decisive there. But also Big News was first to the play before June could get there, right? And the Mordekaiser made a huge difference in that fight as well. So definitely good looks from the top side of the Ducks in that last engagement. They are going to be able to tie up the Dragon count to a piece as a result. And we're back to scaling.
Dark just loses this fight.
Oh, yeah, really hard. He's down 3 levels. I'm surprised Big News actually didn't want to press that any further.
Yeah, I guess was concerned because the Senna hasn't been showing on the map, because GVG has the TP and can rotate down and make it an odd-numbered fight. But I think you'd be okay with dying and drawing that TP, letting the rest of your team go to Baron, so perhaps a small missed opportunity, as right now Conduit looking to pressure around this Drake, push Vision in, stack the numbers, and potentially catch out Outrage here as he pushes this wave.
Very sneaky, yeah, hide on bush strat for the Gremlins. They know they're behind at this point. The EQ is not going to land the Cataclysm for the lockdown just to guarantee it. It's a little bit of damage coming out from Outrage, but ultimately not enough. Trying to turn it around onto Bam there, but the damage is going to come through in time for the Gremlins. They're able to get a nice pick for themselves.
All right, crewman, let's talk item builds for a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Jungler Heartsteel.
Yeah, not my favorite. Is very strong on Skarner, but yeah, you don't get to proc it too much.
Now, astute BOL viewers will recognize the fact that I said this same thing last night on BOL Emerald, and then one team fight later, the Skarner had approximately 300 stacks.
You have Cho'Gath in a Death Realm about to get obliterated.
Oh, no.
It's going to get taken down by Big News, who's now level 16 on the Mordekaiser. The Lord of the Realm of Death pulls in the Dragon as well and is going to obliterate him.
Oh, not
also,
Bam, too.
Good measure. Bam, next Lamb to the slaughter. The next E for the Mordekaiser. Ooh, pretty close. Pretty close. Bam, just on the edge of that one, able to stay alive. And yep, that's 2 dead on the side of the Gremlins. I think now's a great time to start the Baron for the side of the Big Ducks.
Jungler's still alive. No. They could look for a steal.
They could, but Jake's moving in a little bit too early here. He's going to get spotted out. EQ back over the wall will keep him alive, but going to have a pretty hard time getting back in towards this Baron pit. I think this one is going to the Big Ducks every single time.
Yep. Ducks have their bread, now looking to potentially close out this game, it feels like, with the Baron, with an incredibly powerful split push Mordekaiser at this point, taking on 3 members without issue in the extended fight.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, we were just predicting as well, a little bit before that, we were sort of commenting on how strong the Mordekaiser was in that side lane, right? And the fact that he should be pressing that advantage a little bit more. In the end, it felt like the Gremlins kind of gave it to him, right? It was like, Not So Dark just kind of walked up again, let Mordekaiser press R, and it was pretty straightforward from there, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, look, as a Cho'Gath in the bot lane, you have to realize you are comparatively strong compared to a standard support Cho'Gath, in so much as there is a standard support Cho'Gath. But you are not going to win these fights outright. Not against someone who is now 4 levels ahead of you. Why are you sending that 4 level down ADC Cho'Gath to match the split pusher here? Just baffling lane assignment.
I agree. It is a little bit puzzling. I do concur there, Alls. But it did happen regardless. And it is going to mean that the Big Ducks are now in firm control of this game number 1. You know, Big News in a 1v2 right now. That is the comfort zone for the Mordekaiser, though. He really doesn't mind one bit. And it does mean that the Ducks have a significant man advantage here in the mid lane. So they're going to use that to take down the tier 2. GVG was trying to get a little bit of split pushing done. Looks like now we'll recall us. We do have another dragon spawning. There's no chance the Gremlins can fight for this one, though.
Yeah, gonna lose this bot tier 2 as well, quite likely, as that cannon minion continuing to chip away at it, down to just about 600 health. Maybe gets pushed away, but Big News, again, is so scary right now. Is already level 18, highest level in the game, and could almost certainly win this 1v3.
Yeah, the highest level member on the Gremlins right now is 15, you know, just for some extra context there.
Oh, so, no.
It's not close, as that's going to be a nice event horizon on it, too. Outrage is going to one-shot GVG. And now the tier 2 is going to be the target. Dragon already taken down. They one-shot that. They one-shot both dragons there almost simultaneously.
Oh, great one there. Beautiful event horizon.
The Impale onto June, trying to trade back onto the Veigar. It's not going to work out, though. Jake's going to go down next. Big News almost dropping. The turret shot does come through, but the Mordekaiser had the shield to stay alive. And now the base has been broken as It's going to be the Ducks continuing to press forward. Nice death sentence onto the Camille. The Event Horizon as well is going to lock down. Darku flashes forward and gets the feast onto the enemy mid laner. The Rupture will land. Titan goes down next, but Extinction able to turn it around and pin that Void Monster into the wall. The kills start to come through. It's only June left now. They've got GVG in a few seconds. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold it, though. Does have an ultimate. It's not the empowered one, but it looks like the Ducks will respect it. We're going to back away for now. Big News has just teleported in with the full HP bar. Does have the ultimate off cooldown as well. He's going to trap the Aurelion Soul in there. Ultimate is going to be dropped onto only the Mordekaiser, though, and the Dragon is just going to get clobbered, or bonked, as you say, Alls. And now the game surely will end. Jake alive again, but this Mordekaiser just cannot be stopped.
No, might be a little bit too much to ask for, as the minion waves are dead, so not quite finishing this game, but certainly making it all but a foregone conclusion, crewman. Now 30-18, and this game that was oh so close for so long is firmly out of reach.
Yeah, it really does feel like the Gremlins just kind of forced a lot of fights this game that they really didn't need to, and the Big Ducks were really quick to punish.
Yeah, you have the Aurelion Soul, you have the Senna, you have the Cho'Gath. You scale into infinity. Let this game go to 50, 60 minutes if you have to find fights you win. Sure, the Vygar gets big, but if Vygar is all that they have that can match your infinite scaling, that's still a win for you. So I think just at the end of the day, this is Conduit not quite recognizing what their team comp was made for. Is good steal by Outrage, just to add insult to injury.
Very cute. Yeah, and I have to wonder if maybe some of it was like ego a little bit, right? As Gremlins, we've discussed already, #1 team here throughout the whole regular season so far. You know, surely they're aware themselves that coming in here, they should be favored in this matchup as well. So maybe they were just, you know, playing over aggressively for that reason, where they felt like they were just going to have better hands and we're just going to win out in these fights. But absolutely was not the case. The Big Ducks now have got him on the ropes. Titan Hex flashing into the base. Not going to get rooted up by the center of the another nice Event Horizon from Outrage, getting good damage here onto Jake, who's kind of forced to go in, but is just immediately going to get taken down. To tier 3 turret, just barely still standing for now. That's actually the pull in. Oh, the impale though onto 2. Once again, the Thresh is going to get taken out. It's only the support. June trying to dive in towards this backline. It's a nice Aurelion Soul ultimate as well. The Camille is on top of TDK, but June just doesn't have the damage. Too far behind in this game, getting clobbered by the Mordekaiser once again. Extinction now underneath the turret, looking to clean up this Senna. Bam still only level 13. Another Event Horizon will lock down the Cho'Gath, and now it's only Bam left with a Bear Nexus. And in 33 minutes, the Big Duck Entourage will hand to the Conduit Gremlins their 4th game loss of the season.
Yeah, and this is what BDE needed if they were going to improve their postseason stock at all, if they were going to get any higher in the standings before those playoffs. But boy, crewman, this is not how we expected this game to go at all.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, great credit for the Big Ducks, especially after, well, what's a little bit of a lackluster performance that we saw from them last week. To be able to come in here against the #1 team and have such a great showing in game #1 is really incredible. And look at that damage number. Big News subbing in the top lane, getting it done.
Yeah, Big News, big impact, big pressure. I don't think there's any doubt that the Mordekaiser is almost certainly our player of the game here, crewman.
Yeah, agree. Definitely agree. You know, Big News got solo killed. That was, I believe, the first blood was actually June getting that solo kill, I think at level 1. But it felt like after that point, even though the Mordekaiser was getting focused a little bit, I mean, Jake had come up there for a gank as well pretty early, but the Mordekaiser went 1-for-1 even before level 6, right? And, you know, once we get towards those later stages, it felt like Big News just had all the answers. You know, it was the R5 Mordekaiser pick as well, the team giving him those resources in the draft to go for the counter pick and really just paying him back in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. The question now becomes, how does Conduit clean up their act for game 2? Is there anything they need to do in drafting? Is it champions that are just not being selected right? Or is it what we were starting to call out there at the end of they're not playing to what their comp is built for?
Yeah, also, I mean, I think it's one of two options, right? I mean, either you can play this way, but you have to draft stronger champions that spike earlier on in the game. Like, if you're gonna fight for every objective and go for all of these early plays, then you have to draft differently. You can't be drafting all this scaling. Or you could draft the scaling again and just play it a little bit calmer. Respect your opponents a little bit more and only go for fights that you know you can win. But it really felt like they were trying to just take everything with this draft and this play here in game number 1, and they ended up with nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough loss, though, after so long fighting through, so long hanging on, and for BDE, shot in the arm, especially heading into playoffs. If they can continue to maintain this momentum, they should be in great shape. But any final thoughts before we head into break and prepare for game 2?
I don't think so. Also, I think we can go ahead and head into that break. We'll see if the Big Ducks are going to be able to keep it going here and pull off a absolutely huge upset heading into that postseason, or if the Conduit Gremlins are going to be able to get their feet under them and bring us to that game number 3. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back to week number 9 here in the BOL Plat League. We are on to the Game 2 draft now. As losers of I forget how we do it here, is we always switch sides after Game 1 for the regular season. So the Gremlins now trying their luck on the red side. They now will have their turn at the R5 counter pick. See if June can get some revenge.
Yeah, after that blind Camille, which we both thought was a little bit aggressive, and it bombed hard as big man upstairs. The Mordekaiser just absolutely dominant and will not be returning, likely for the rest of this series, as that ban has already come through here.
Yeah, notably the Skarner getting taken away as well. They don't want that to be picked over by Extinction once again either. And then the Jinx going to round out those bans from the red side. Does mean both the Braum and the Jhin. Oh, actually, the Jhin banned away by the... Oh, no, wait. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong side of the bans. Yeah, so it was Azir, Wukong, and Volibear were the Gremlin bans in Game 1. All of those going to be left open, and the Volibear is going to get picked away here. Extinction still finding some comfort with that one.
Yeah, I mean, Volibear is incredibly powerful as a jungler, especially around that level 6 point. Has kind of the same spike potential as a Vi or a Nocturne, where you just kind of roll over and win those first couple of fights as long as you don't throw too hard. We've seen some Volibears in recent memory completely miss the turret, completely miss the enemy, flounder around, take some extra turret shots, and just die ignominiously. So, a little bit of pressure, but as he said, Extinction very comfortable on the champ, should be just fine.
Yeah, and had a great game number 1 as well, right, on the Skarner. I'm thinking of that one really big team fight engage around that second Chemtech Dragon where he flashed in, got the 2-man Impale, pretty much decided the fight right there. So Extinction feels like the instincts are running hot today. Definitely a good look with the Ivern coming out now for the Gremlins. A very different look for them.
Yeah, Ivern's one of those champions that's hit or miss because it has such a high clear speed that you can quite often get ahead of the enemy jungler, and with that root collar can be quite effective in early ganks, but doesn't have a ton of combat stats, so won't offer as much raw value as the Volibear in those late game team fights.
Yeah, now very interesting. We are going to see Outrage going for the Azir here. So now multiple champions that were banned away by the Gremlins in Game 1 that are left open now are being picked away by the Ducks. See what they're going to go for on the B3 here. This does mean also that either their ADC or their support is going to have to get dropped down to the 4-5, or potentially both. They could just look for a top lane prio pick here, but no, it is going to be the Rel. So feeling like they have enough ADC options still on the table where they're not going to be pressured too hard there, but we'll see what the Gremlins decide to go for in this second ban phase. They now have the opportunity to lock in their support to go into the Rel.
Yeah, Rel doesn't exactly narrow the ADC pool too badly, but still, having a couple of extra bans here to chip away at the pool of TDK is a little bit awkward. I understand, though, the power picks of the Azir and Volibear far too juicy to pass up, as Wei will be the counter. Lots of range, lots of damage, but a little bit vulnerable in that early game.
Yeah, definitely. So that is most likely going to be matching the Azir in the mid lane. Of course, we do see the Wei support from time to time, but I think that would be pretty underwhelming alongside the Kai'Sa. So likely the mid lane option there, and it does at the very least allow you to farm from range, right? As long as you don't step up, you're not going to be pressured by the Azir too heavily. So probably kind of the general idea there for GVG. We do now move into that second ban phase. The Big Ducks in their second ban phase previously, banning away the Yone and the Maokai. Maokai obviously not going to be a concern this time around, as we do see jungle locked in already for the Gremlins. Although maybe if they're worried about the Maokai support, we could still see it come through. But
yeah, we are getting confirmation, by the way, that that no ban was a Sylas. So we will get that up on the screen here real shortly for you guys. There you go. Nice and professional.
Beautiful. As the Nautilus is going to be the support ban from the Big Ducks. So now what is the pairing alongside the Kai'Sa? I think the Nautilus ban there makes a lot of sense, but there are still some good options available here. The Alistar comes to mind.
And there it is.
Rel, there it is indeed.
You summon it. Well, the Rel was already taken. I think Thresh could have been a good shot. Leona as well. We
Yeah.
don't see a ton of Leona anymore, and that's kind of disappointing because she has a lot of power in terms of that Solar Flare and the Zenith Blade, and quite a lot of survivability with the Eclipse as well, but just as fallen out of the meta and likely to stay there for a while, as Sivir is potentially the pick. That's a nice counter to Alistar if you can time that spell shield right, but no, maybe Samira.
Oh,
All
that
right.
is exciting. So now it feels like the big ducks are the ones that are maybe trying to ego a little bit here, trying to close this out with a quick 2-0, a very aggressive lock-in for TDK. Do we have any mastery on the Samira? What are the TDK Samira stats? Yeah, that is one of the more commonly played champs for TDK. I'm seeing a 60% win rate here, so pretty good on the Samira. Not the biggest sample size in terms of games played, but still.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those champions where as long as you have the ability to outhands your opponent, and especially with a team that's been drafted alongside it, there is a ton of opportunity for just a full send from BDE. They don't want front-to-back team fight in this game. They want to dive, they want to cause chaos, and they want to get on top of this Wei and Kaisa from the word go. But Darius, as the final pick here for Conduit, thrives in that kind of chaos.
He does indeed. I feel like once again, Oz, we're seeing really great utilization of the R5 pick here. Darius is going to feel, obviously, is not going to be pressured by the Malphite really at all. And he is very powerful in situations where his opponents are trying to dive on top of him, right? You can get a lot of value out of the Decimate that way. And if you manage to get that one person low enough to get that first reset, he can completely take over the whole fight. So it definitely feels like a great option here. And we do need to see this bounce back game, right, from June, who struggled a little bit in that last one. So I think this is a great pick to try to do that with.
Yeah, it's great for June having that R5 and into something like the Malphite, which isn't necessarily going to have nearly as much pressure as the Mordekaiser, just going to absorb that and want to sit back, be more useful in the team fights. But, crewman, that top lane is not in isolation. It is a team game here, and 5 champions on either side. Who do you think is taking this game?
I don't know. I mean, the Big Ducks have some momentum, and I do like their composition overall. I mean, it's pretty aggressive, and maybe the Azir does feel a little bit out of place, but, you know, he can absolutely get in there, get down and dirty if he needs to. But on the other side, I feel like the Gremlins came in with a lot of great responses. I mean, the Ivern is also a little bit weird here to me. I mean, you don't have like a traditional hyper carry to be buffing up as the Ivern, so it's not entirely clear what the role of that champ is going to be in this draft. But I feel like the Darius pick is so great. I feel like Wei is one of those champs who's kind of sleeper OP right now, and the Kaisa Alistar lane is also really powerful. So I don't know. I kind of feel like we are going to get that game 3 tonight, especially considering how strong the Gremlins have looked all season. It would just be so shocking if they lost out 0-2 tonight.
Well, only time will tell. I agree. I think that BDE has a comp that's very good front to back. I think Azir has a little bit more ability to get in that fight than maybe you're giving him credit for, wanting to get in, wanting to get those early shuffles to set Samira up for the combination ultimate. Could potentially offer a whole lot of value there. But it could go either way, and as you said, Conduit, such a good team, has been better than they were in Game 1, and we expect more of them here.
Yeah, definitely the case. Let's see, are we getting into this client draft pretty soon here? Also, it seems like there might be a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, had a couple of issues. Some folks forget exactly how Champ Select works sometimes, but
Oh dear.
not the end of the world. So we will have a little bit of extra time here before we get into the actual Rift, but crewman, I still think it's about time for us to step aside and let folks get some drinks, get some popcorn before we head into this fairly pivotal Game 2.
All right, guys, all needs a bathroom break. We're going to go to that short intermission. We'll see you on the other side for Game 2. right, everyone. Bienvenue. Welcome back to Summoner's Rift. That means welcome in French, right?
It sure does.
Excellent. I'm glad I didn't mess that up. But yeah, here we go. We have the Big Ducks over on the blue side this time around, of course. And the Gremlins over on the red, looking to bounce back after what was a pretty uncharacteristically sloppy game number 1 from them. And they've got a little bit of a different look this time. We've got Jake on the Ivern and June on this R5 Darius. See what they can get done.
Yeah, you know, they may have struggled in game 1, but they got the hype music playing, and they are coming out and ready to slam because the Dunkmaster Skinnergy is on point here between the top laner and their substitute jungler. So, you know,
Indeed, very, very important.
it's a mental buff, and that's what's important.
It is, and you know, we'll see. Hopefully, that will be enough to get us that game number 3 tonight, alls. But we'll see, because it does feel like a pretty powerful composition once again from the Big Ducks as well. You know, they're just going to be going in. They're going to be looking to blow people up. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. And they have the momentum after game 1 as well. They are already going in that forwards direction. So just looking to continue doing that. Oh, that was a little bit awkward. Jake missing the Ivern Q there.
Yeah, it's fine. Who needs tempo when you're an Ivern, right?
Yeah, Ivern, he definitely, you know, he's just, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know
He's just a silly guy.
Ivern.
He's just having a time.
He is. He's warming up still. You know, that was just his first shot. You know, missed the first field goal there, but that's all right. You know, we're still warming up. Big News is also getting warmed up by this Darius right now, who did pop the Ghost very early on.
Yeah, big damage onto Big News, but still has that Molten Shield, so should be able to take a few more fights, and especially as this wave pushes in. Without the Ghost, June won't be able to chase, so should be fairly safe here for Big News, honestly, as long as he doesn't make any major mistakes.
Yeah, that is going to be the idea for the Malphite for sure. Just to try not to die to the basketball player with an axe. Or I guess he's holding what is literally a basketball hoop, right? That is the weapon for the Dunkmaster Darius.
Yes, indeed.
Wielding the basketball hoop itself. Pretty intimidating.
Yeah, Ivor now looking to clear towards this top side as all of those camps have been marked up. So, no particular gank to be had up there, but maybe a little bit of pressure. Force Big News to take an early unfortunate back. Could let June start to scale pretty heavily here.
Now, a little bit of a slower start to this one so far. You know, June did obviously look for that level 1. Didn't quite find the first blood this time around, though. It's level 3 first for TDK and Titan down here. They're going to be able to gain some control over this bot wave for now.
Yeah, control is all it will be. Samira not exactly known for her early damage.
This is a very awkward position now for Big News. The wave is pushing away, and Jake is here. And he's going to flash for the Root Caller, but it's hard to follow up on that. So a little impatient there from Jake, and that's just going to be flashed down for the tree.
Yeah, and we'll lose the Rift Scuttler as cost for that. Nice read by Extinction, and now looking for GVG, looking to flash stun.
The Flash Merchant, yeah, is going to find it as well. GVG flashes away, barely able to stay alive. Honestly, probably should have been able to predict the fact that Extinction was going to flash in there, but at least the Way will survive and does have the teleport to get back to lane. And this should be, you'd have to imagine, the double crab for Extinction, as he does have a bot prio as well. Jake's just going to hold the wave. And this is going to be a nice early lead for the Volibear.
Yeah, despite the speed that Ivern has on those clears, you can't win if you just lose on the map reads. And Extinction showing why they're one of the best junglers in the league right now.
Yeah, and does have quite a bit of mastery as well, of course, on the Volibear. The B1 pick, if you guys remember, in this Game 2 draft, really placing a lot of priority, a lot of value on getting this champion for this player.
Yeah. Still, though, despite that early pressure, hasn't found any kills, waiting on that level 6 to start having a ton of gank prio. Perhaps able to look towards this top side with the Darius, who's proxying, but
Hey.
TDK's in trouble.
Ivern, yeah, the grasping maw as GVG has made his way down here towards this bottom lane, but they're not going to be able to lock anybody down, not even going to get any summoners there. And Azir's get another wave pushed in mid. Way's going to lose a little bit of CS for this, having already burned the teleport. I don't know, the Gremlins looking a little bit of out of sorts once again, heroes.
Yeah, looking on Outrage here, though. Jake doesn't have the flash, remember, used it in that ill-fated topside, and so shuffling out is going to be Outrage A-okay.
Easy peasy, nothing to it. And we do have our first dragon alive. Grubs spawning soon. An Extinction going to move in here. Looks like the dragon will be their first target in terms of those objectives.
Yeah, pretty much uncontested here as Bam and Not So Dark decided to recall, and Ivern all the way on the other side of the map will likely be able to get the little grubbies in trade, but again, this is an early Ivern. He does not take very quickly without support.
He really doesn't. Yeah, Ivern not great at these objective takes. You know, does have Darius at least who could maybe get this wave pushed out. Yeah, as you can see, this is quite slow. It's nice for Jake to be able to move in there, get that little bit of AoE damage from the shield, but looks like we'll be able to maybe actually secure all three of these, despite the fact that it's going to take a little while.
Boy, this really speaks to the level of jungle difficulty in this season. Remember at the start of the season, they were like, yeah, Yuumi can jungle at this point. Outrage finds its scuttle on it too.
Yeah, Extinction going to be coming in here. Looking for the stun of GVG has no flash and no mana. Well, Outrage is also in trouble. It's only an Alistar, though, that's hitting him right now. Extinction is going to get peeled off by the Ivern, moving over instead of finishing off those grubs. But the Volibear just cannot be stopped. Going to be able to take a bite out of the way there. But June, able to move over, is going to get the dunk on the enemy jungler. So kill traded across, 1-for-1. Is Darius able to make that early game presence felt?
And it does mean that this is time away from big news, time away from pushing this advantage. Now has level 6, and again, will have a teleport advantage throughout the entirety of this game. So has a ton of potential to be far more impactful in the mid to late game. June has to really up the tempo here if they want to make use of this champ.
Yeah. I mean, it is going to be pretty hard to match in the side lane later on, right? So even if we don't get a huge lead early, I do think that the Darius is still going to be comfortable in the later stages of this one as well. But we'll see. You know, it does feel like whoever does get the early lead with these drafts should definitely be favored. You know, overall in the game, that's usually how it works. But you know, not nearly as much scaling on either side this time around as what we saw in the previous game.
Yeah, for sure. This game is far more focused on that immediate teamfight capacity. As it looks like we're going to be seeing a gank here in bot side. Jake looking for the root caller, but way too far away and way too late on that one.
Yeah, and we do have a little bit of downtime before the next objective spawns. It's going to be that dragon in just under 3 minutes. Was Jake hoping to secure this scuttle, but it's going to take a little bit too long for that to be really ready for him. And Extinction actually, an aggressive play, does have the Stormbringer now, so could look for a bot dive here. How big is that wave in the bot lane? Mid laner's just trading a little bit for now.
Not very large.
Not huge. Yeah, so it looks like Extinction will just go for the crab after all. And Jake was in position to cover the play regardless, so...
Yeah, not a huge dive potential anyway with the Alistar. That's a ton of lockdown that you don't want to fight your way into. Big News has the ultimate. This could be dangerous for June here as it's popped.
Go in, yeah. In for the unstoppable force. Flashing forward is the Malphite. The Noxian Guillotine is not enough as the bleed stacks were not fully prepped for the Darius. And Big News, nicely done, seeing the angle there. And that's our game 1 POG, finding the solo kill in a tough matchup.
Yeah, and Malphite really struggles in the early levels 1 through 5, but once you start to actually get a few stacks of that mana flow and can actually rotate through your spells, you become very powerful. Big News is going to die here because he was just super greedy, but... Alright,
yeah,
goes to Jake.
Yeah, actually, that is honestly kind of decent news for Big News. The fact that it wasn't the way that picked that one up. But yeah, definitely a little bit greedy there from the Malphite, wanting to get that extra wave pushed in. Will cost him.
Yeah, might cost a plate as well for the Hui, so A little bit of gold back in exchange for the kill that was stolen here, as not too far ahead of Outrage at the moment.
Yeah, we're pretty even across the board here. Only 300 gold separating these teams overall. 2-2 on the scoreboard, of course. Very close early game so far. To trade those early neutrals as well. Anybody could take it from here. Ivern is getting a little bit of counter jungling done at the moment.
And doesn't have the smite available, but might sit around long enough to take this one.
Yeah, a little bit behind on the Volibear.
Oh no, GVG.
Oh dear, yeah, the way potentially in trouble with the Malphite. Still ulti on cooldown for big news, and that will mean GVG can get out to safety. Was a little bit of a close call, though. Did have to utilize the ultimate at the very least. His Extinction is going to find June here in the jungle. Darius level up right now. Noxie and Guillotine also not quite off cooldown just yet. Is pretty close, though. And Extinction definitely has to be careful to not give over any more gold to this Darius.
Yeah, it was dangerous, though, as Outrage was in the area. Now going to be a 4-on-3 as Wei teleports into the mid lane, preparing for this Drake. It looks like Conduit doesn't want to give it up without a fight here. Doesn't want to start that stacking.
I mean, that's what we saw last game as well, as they just felt like they had to fight for every single dragon. This time, though, it does look like they are going to be set up for success. There is vision in the pit for the side of the Big Ducks, but it looks like they're going to be happy to trade this one for that second round of grubs. That Samira's going to have to flash away from June. Does manage to get underneath the turret. Procs the Inferno trigger. Gets out a decent amount of damage, but Samira is just not strong enough just yet. Doesn't have that first item completion, and it will be a successful dive for the Gremlins.
Yeah, and not a fast take here on the top side. They haven't taken a single grub so far, so won't be able to make anything of it in the top side. Can't go for that first turret here, so a little bit unfortunate. And strange read from TDK. Yeah, you know that you're maybe not in too much trouble walking up to that tri-bush, but you have to be aware of the fact that there are 4 members in the area as Titan is getting very low.
Yeah, I was a little bit close there for the Rel, but we'll survive the grub attack. As that's actually 3 plates that Malphite just picked up. Am I seeing that right?
That is correct. This Malphite got a lot of gold there. And feeling pretty alright, all things considered. And likely will have enough for that fully completed Sunfire here.
Yeah, almost certainly. Should be able to continue being rock solid in that side lane.
And yep, there comes through. Gonna keep getting harder for June to actually win these fights. The Molten Shield just so powerful, and having that extra burn damage, being able to sit on top of the Darius is incredibly nice here. Just the continued output to make sure that you match the bleed at least.
I mean, you say that. Yeah, I do think that maybe the bleed is actually a little bit stronger, but we'll have to see if that 1v1 does come through later with what will actually emerge victorious. As the Darius does also have the Black Cleaver first item, so it does have that armor shred as well. Is going to be very useful, obviously, against the Malphites.
Yeah, definitely itemizing mostly towards this fight up here, not looking towards Extinction or Outrage nearly as much. I mean, obviously the Cleaver is useful with how easily Darius stacks it with the passive, but it's a percent shred, so it doesn't help as much against folks who don't have much armor stacked of their own.
Very true. Very true. Definitely primarily itemizing towards that 1v1 in the side lane, certainly. And should be able to, at the very least, hold on to this turret, but it is just by a thread, that tier 1 in the top lane. Certainly it feels like side of the Ducks want to try to be playing fast. Teleport behind now for Outrage. Does have the sweep. Could look for a big play here. That's going to be Volibear flashing in. The sweep does come through, and that is going to be the first kill onto the Ivern as Titan actually picks it up. Dark now on the run. The Indomitable Will going to be fading soon. JVG taken down next. It's a double kill, I believe, over to Extinction, or the first one did go to the Rel. Here comes the Darius, though, flashing forward, looking to take the first kill of this fight. Has the... Oh, it misclicked the dunk! I clicked on the wrong champion, and Titan will live. And that is absolute disaster for the Conduit Gremlins. They invested a whole lot there, and they come away with only the 1 kill on the Volibear.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. It does look like Kaisa will be able to pick up first turret at least, so that's gold in pocket, keeping this from getting too far out of hand, but very quickly turned back around as mid-tier 1 is taken, and even ignoring the many kills that came through in that fight. That's still a big win for this BDE squad because it means the vision line's pushed up, because it means they can contest these neutrals much easier. And now, with the Rift Herald in pocket and a mid-outer already taken, it should be very easy to just start stacking these gold advantages.
They're going to be able to... Oh, it's stolen! Oh, GVG got in there with something. I didn't even see what spell came out that might have thrown that away, but yeah, that was 1 HP that I saw on the Rift Arrows that got stolen away. Dark, though, will have to flash away to stay alive. Extinction, though, also going down low. Daisy looking to get that knock up. Severing Bolt actually didn't land there somehow, as the Volley Bear will live. Here comes June, though, once again. Dark finding a headbutt pulverize onto 2. Outrage now has to flash away to get away from June. Big news will have to be sacrificed, so they lose out on the Herald. They have to sacrifice their top laner as well. Bam, still looking, not going to find the Void Seeker, though. Titan will get away. But no, that is going to be a little bit of a saving grace for the Gremlins.
Yeah, they don't actually pick up the Rift Herald here, so won't be quite as valuable as if they had secured it, but the denial very valuable, and getting the extra kill on the way out helps equalize this gold. It's still only 400 here, crewman. That's basically nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very close in this one still. We have our next dragon spawning imminently. We do see some pings coming out from the big ducks. They want to move over here to try to get some control, but they are a little bit late. And of course, known to us, the side of the Gremlins also a little bit late to this one. So could be anybody's fight. Titan's going to utilize that Scryer's Bloom to get some vision.
Remember, June can't join.
TDK is not grouped up with the rest of the team right now, and that is a great out as well. The fact that the Darius does not have teleport and is on the other side of the map. So smart call from the Gremlins here would be to give this one up, and it looks like that is going to be the play.
Yeah, they will seed that top outer for this, but I think it's a worthwhile call. You get the stats, you get the capacity to start looking for that soul a little bit sooner. And as we mentioned, neither of these teams particularly worried about scaling, but at the end of the day, the Hui and Kaisa a little bit outscale, I think, here.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. You know, it does look like the Kaisa is going for that AD on-hit build, so arguably that doesn't scale as well as the AP version. But still, you know, the Kaisa is going to be doing plenty of damage towards those later stages of the game. So I think that is overall fair to say. Samira does tend to fall off a little bit more if she doesn't get fed early on, which, yeah, TDK hasn't really been able to make happen. But the other thing that I think is kind of important to consider here is the fact that we have a Chemtech Soul again for the second game in a row. And this game in particular, I do believe it to be pretty underwhelming. I mean, it's going to be theoretically good on Malphite, but what are you really buying time for, right? Like, he's going to live longer, but like, what does that really get you with this composition? Outrage, Spiraling Despair slowed up the Azir, but now the teleport coming in from the Malphite, who does have the ultimate. Could look for it onto GVG here, does get it onto 2.
Yeah, it looks like we may have lost crewman here. Big news. Forced to run away, the Ignite coming down. Not so Dark in a little bit of trouble, stunned up. Lightning coming down. However, Extinction does not have the ultimate used and will go down. Magnet Storm coming in onto his Outrage with the scoop back. Picks up 2 kills in return to their own. Jake and GVG now on the back foot as June still has not joined that fight. The TP not being available makes it so hard for him to get in, as now on the side finds Titan. It's big news. Getting chunked out by GVG. Neither of these teams really want to walk forward as it's so dangerous to go into these bushes. But it seems that they will disengage with a 2-for-1 in favor of BDE. Oh, we will be working here for just a moment to get crewman back. I believe we have him back on the air.
Oh, was I muted?
No, it looks like Discord decided to die.
Oh, fun. We love that.
Yes. Not only does Riot decide to destroy the amateur world with their awful Vanguard implementation, we have to also suffer through Discord, who just is Discord. Pretty great.
Doing great. So when did we lose me? How much of that fight?
About 1/3 of the way in.
All right. Well, Obviously, in the end there, we did see the Big Ducks able to get the 2-for-1, and the Gremlins thought about pushing their luck, but deciding to back away in the end. So a little bit more restraint shown from them in this second game.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's very dangerous to walk into a Darius, even a Darius who's at about
Oh.
1/3 health, is Titan very in trouble.
Flashes away, will survive. Extinction now moving in, gets the stun onto the Ivern, who also has the flash. Unstoppable Force will connect, though, and that's going to be Jake going down. Samira stacking up that ultimate as well. The Inferno Trigger going to come out, is going to be able to get this first kill onto Dark. In goes Bam, though, and I don't know about that positioning with the Killer Instinct, as Inferno Trigger is back once again, and that's going to be TDK able to scoop up the triple kill. The Rel will bleed out on the back end of this one, but June now has no way out either. The quadra kill going over to TDK, and the Big Ducks looking to pick up the 2-0.
Yeah, that's going to be a quad for Samira. That's going to be a Baron as well. And, you know, this game's still close. It's not the end of the world as GVG teleporting in, looking to contest this and perhaps find a sneaky steal once again. But actually, we'll just chase him straight off this Baron is way a little bit too scary with the Luden's sidearm there.
Yeah, they didn't have their Azir for the DPS, and TDK also didn't immediately move over. Went over to the mid-wave after that fight ended. So I think maybe if the Samira had gone straight to the objective, they could have burned it down quick enough, but it still would have been kind of risky. And overall, don't hate the call to just back away there, as there's another dragon spawning as well in about 35 seconds that we could play for.
Yeah, both teams starting to move over. Seems like Not So Dark has slightly better vision control because the team is working around him, but when Extinction recalls and starts moving over, should swing back the other way. We do see Jun down here already, so will actually be available for this fight. Big News won't have the TP for another few seconds. There's a small window that the Conduit team could look for a fight, but seems like BD's read it pretty well. They're not going to step up unnecessarily.
For sure, yeah. And remember, again, this is a Chemtech soul. Like, as far as souls go, I don't think it's really something that you have to be fighting over. It's not by itself a win condition, but clearly some of these Big Duck members, there's the teleport, it is coming in from the Malphite. Jake is chunked down pretty low right at the start of this one. Daisy's going to get taken down as well, but Extinction is going to have to Stormbringer away. The Spiraling Despair just barely going to go wide. Means the BD jungler will survive. Big News into the backline, finds the Unstoppable Force onto 2. Can TDK clean it up once again? It's a nice pulverize from the Alistar, and they shut down the Samira. June able to get the last hit on that one, and now Extinction is trying to move in to help, but the Volibear is so low, and he already used the ultimate. It's gonna be the Conduit Gremlins cleaning up the team fight. It's a triple kill this time around for June, and they will get their second dragon.
Yeah, you are reliant on that Samira damage right now, as we just haven't seen Azir pop off, and when you die that quick to June, you just can't win, and now should be Baron fairly easily taken here for the side of Conduit. And what we thought was going to be a quick 2-0 after that quadra kill, it's back in the balance, my friend.
Oh yes, we're looking at a pretty close game on our hands once again. I do believe this is going to be the Baron going over, though. So the Gremlins are going to be opening up a little bit of a lead. Oh, what's this, though? The teleport coming in for Outrage. Wants to try and have something to say about this, but the Volibear I don't think is going to get here in time. They could maybe look for the fight afterwards, but Azir doesn't even have ultimate right now. The Baron is going to get secured. Now Titan's going to get pulled in by June, but the Gremlins just going to take their prize and look to abscond away back to their base. Extinction going to get rooted up there by the root caller of the Ivern, and Volibear getting burned down here once again. The fear, the damage from the way is crazy. Extinction gets taken down after the Baron already goes over. Outrage now in troubles, way too deep after that teleport. Does have the Sun Disc to create some space and will survive for now at least. But now Big News is caught out trying to help the mid lane, or the Malphite Unstoppable Force away will survive, but that is going to be Outrage sacrificed as well. So the Big Ducks now kind of just going to pieces.
What a weird fight all over the map, crewman. BDE didn't have to contest that. They knew that it was fairly well gone after that fight around the Drake, but
Totally gone, yeah.
Burning TPs, sticking around way too late, going far too deep, and not respecting the sheer damage output of GVG, who has 2 fully completed items and a fully stacked Dark Seal, which is deceptively valuable here. That's a ton of AP in pocket.
Yeah, and Volibear has no magic resist, right? He just popped like a balloon. It was like 2 spells from way, and he was just dead.
Yeah, the burn just so powerful on that ultimate. And feels like they're not respecting the amount of combat power, not respecting where they need to focus. Because the focus is on TDK following up after the wombo combo of Big News, Titan, and Outrage. It's not these weird, dinky little fights.
Yeah, and the Alistar in that last fight that we saw where TDK almost was able to pop off did a great job of shutting TDK down. So if Dark can continue to have that good performance on the Alistar and continue to have that focus on the enemy Samira, I think things are looking really good for that game number 3, y'alls.
Yeah, certainly looking that way. 60 seconds here left on the Baron buff, and the push is repelled. Only time will tell if Conduit decides to go for another wave here, but it's entirely possible that this buff will result in all of the inhibitors still standing, which would leave a whole lot of runway for BDE to salvage this with another couple of fights.
Yeah, I mean, there is still a chance, but you were mentioning earlier on that we do feel like the Wei and the Kaisa do kind of outscale, at least in the damage department, as Big News getting engaged on a little bit here, though. He does have enough resistances to not be too bothered by it. But actually, also, I want to take a minute to revisit the Soul conversation. I was asserting that the Chemtech Soul is not really going to be as impactful this game. Do you feel the same way, though, or do you think that it is actually something that could be critical in determining the outcome?
I think it's powerful on champions like the Darius that are happy to sit at low health, because Darius, with that Decimate, gets so much healing from missing health. He's happy to go low and return high. Azir just dying on the top side. Real unfortunate for him is the push coming on two sides now. This may just be the end of the game here, crewman.
I mean, they did just lose the Baron buff, so the wave clear should be here for the Big Ducks. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know. How did Outrage just die to Darius in the solo lane? I mean, June expended the flash, so clearly just caught Outrage off guard somehow. But the Azir this game, unfortunately, I think has been pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, at 1, 4, and 5, you really feel like anything could have filled that role. I mean, I get it. I like the concept of it, and I like picking the comfort champ here, but it seems like they've had his number. Like, he hasn't really been able to step up in the way he wants to. And GVG, with the amount of damage output that he's had, even if he's only gotten 3 kills, has just contributed so much more effective value to the map.
Definitely. And you did get interrupted on those soul thoughts a moment ago, Oz, if you wanted to finish your thought.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of value onto champs like Jun, who wants to go low, and onto champs like Not So Dark, who have the extra resistances and can survive for long periods at low health. And given that that's who BDE needs to cut through to get to the backline here, that's a lot of value for this Conduit squad. Whether it actually works out that way, I don't think this game is going to last to Soul.
Certainly, that could be an option, as we are going to have another 5v5 for this third Chemtech Dragon. As currently, River Control held by the Ducks, but that Scuttle Crab vision providing a lot of value over to the Gremlins. Dark going to blast cone in here. Look for an engage. We need to watch TDK in this fight on the Samira. June and GVG, the big carries on the other side, going to be able to pull in. Titan, the Rel is just going to get one shot before she can really do anything. 4v5 now in favor of the Gremlins. Sparkling Despair going to connect on the Outrage, who finds the sweep onto one, but the follow-up is just not even close to being there. Azir's going to get taken down next. The Malphite's just going to be forced to go in. He's going to get taken down, and TDK, they just couldn't really set anything up for him. The Samira just never had a chance to do anything, really, in that fight.
Yeah, TDK and Extinction will survive, but boy, if this isn't a disaster for BDE, and this series absolutely going to 3 games at this point, as BDE is routed. All 5 members of Conduit remain alive, and this should be the final push here, crewman.
Yeah, it definitely should be. I mean, that was just all over the place from the Big Ducks. That looked more like what we saw from them last week, right? And their match against Agni Kai, where they weren't really focused on the same targets. They weren't really clear on how they wanted to fight as a team, and they kind of just got picked apart.
Yeah, just no confidence in themselves, no confidence in their teams, and I almost wonder if you've got some folks not really paying attention to comms there, doing whatever they think is right, like it's solo queue, and it is blowing up in their faces here. Fortunately for them, doesn't seem like Conduit wants to push the envelope. They want to take this slow and steady, so they get one more chance to salvage this game, but given how these fights have gone, I don't think there's a whole lot of hope here.
I mean, it's going to be really tough. I don't think we can really blame Titan too much for that last fight. Did obviously die first, but maybe you can say that, Rel was just walking a little bit too close to that bush where she didn't have vision, but Rel usually has the ability to get away in those situations, right? Just not this time. The burst damage was too much. Just got one shot, basically, as they are going to find a June. Phase checking the bush there, but I don't think they can burst down this Darius quick enough. He's level 16. He's so powerful. TDK is here to try to capitalize on this temporary numbers advantage from Outrage as well. Can he be the difference this time around? TDK still pretty safe on the back line. Inferno Trigger ready to go. Is going to be able to go in. Can they take down June? The Darius is still alive. He's not going to drop. And the gold difference was just a little bit too heavy. The Conduit Gremlins clean him up once again. And this will guarantee the game 3.
Oh, line him up and knock him down, crewman. Conduit has just come alive in this game, and really a completely different mentality, it feels like, than we saw in that first game, as they are playing much more coherent, much more cohesive, and actually befitting of that rank 1 team.
Absolutely. This is much more, I think, what we were expecting to see tonight. Pretty clean stuff. The side of the Big Ducks were still able to find some angles in the early game, and honestly, another pretty solid performance, I want to say, from Big News. But the Mal fight, not a carry, not in the same way that Mordekaiser can be, and it just wasn't enough this time around, as a sad attempt from TDK. Tried to go for the Infernal Trigger there, but it's just way too far behind on the Samira. Quadra kill for June to close it out, and these top laners today really feel like they are the difference makers.
Yeah, great play there from the Dariuses. Boy, BDE definitely gave a run for their money there, but just not enough legs to keep it going, and a couple of bad calls start to take the energy out of your sails.
Yeah, I just weren't as coordinated in the team fights, and by the end of the game, I think we did see the value of the Ivern. The fact that maybe the fact that the Big Ducks damage was a little bit lacking as well is definitely a contributing factor there. But it felt like there were a lot of situations where there were Gremlin members who did go down very, very low and just were kind of like barely staying alive, and I think Ivern shields were almost certainly playing a role there.
Yeah, very fair. And it comes down to a lot of things. It comes down to the fact that Outrage was doing no damage. We saw in that final fight around the Nexus, he was plinking away at June, but I don't think really over the course of 5-6 auto attacks he did more than maybe 300 damage, and that's in his ear. That's on hit. It's supposed to do more damage. TDK just couldn't get into the front line. Anytime he tried to move forward was either CC'd to death or just blown out of the water, and nobody else in that comp had damage. So just a confluence of things, and real unfortunate for BDE that they're not able to close it out. I think with the momentum on their side, this was their best chance, because now they're fighting uphill, having lost a real demoralizing game here.
Yeah, I mean, they will have side selection, I believe, for this third and final games. That's how we do it here, if I recall correctly, is, games 1 and 2, each team plays on each side once, and then I believe it's the losing team chooses for game 3. Do you know if that's correct?
I believe so, but we'll have to get absolute confirmation in the in-between games here.
Yeah, well, if that is the case, then that is something at least for the Ducks to try and work with. I imagine probably going back to red side, maybe get counterpick for Big News again. That seemed to work pretty well in game number 1. But before we get there, our game 2 POG, are we going to align on the June vote here? Is it the top laner once again?
I think so. I think a big second place has to be given to GVG for the damage output on the way. Good target selection, making sure Extinction wasn't able to cause chaos, but at the end of the day, it was the Darius running wild that made that game happen.
I do think Dark had an exemplary performance on the Alistar as well. Very solid in the lane phase. It was an intelligent pick, right, into the Rel, and then in the team fights in the mid game, just able to shut down that Samira so consistently, I think was pretty critical for them. Is what prevented TDK from getting that big lead and snowballing the game, right? So Definitely a good performance all around from the Gremlins. They're able to bounce back in a big way here in Game 2, which is exactly what we wanted to see from the number 1 team. And it does, of course, mean that we are going to get that game number 3 tonight, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you here for it. All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome to our last champion select of the season 11 regular season. We're season 11 here in the BOL, right? Or is it season 8?
I think we're season 11.
Season 11, yes, I was right the first time. And one quick order of business, guys. So I was mistaken about the side selection rules there. No selection in the regular season. It is just alternating sides. So the Big Ducks were always going to go back to red side for this third and final game of the night, and the Gremlins were always going to be on blue. But I still think, Alls, that this is going to benefit the Ducks.
Yeah, they did play better on the red side, and this means that Jun does not get the counter pick in the top lane. Of course, Mordekaiser is going to be taken off the table, so nothing quite that powerful, but still, there's plenty of good choices up there, plenty of options regardless of what Jun picks. Now, the other thing I am curious about is whether they are going to pick their ADC in the first rotation, so they're not forced into something like that Samira in rotation number 2.
Yeah, it definitely did feel like TDK's impact in that last game was quite limited. You know, I think the Samira can be good, and we kind of saw glimpses of that, right? But in the end, I think there's a reason that we don't see that pick very often, right? And it is because it is just generally inconsistent. If the Samira does fall behind, as we saw, the impact is just not really there. So I think a different look for TDK this time is going to be really important, and I think a different look for Outrage as well. Don't really want to see that Azir again.
No, it was underwhelming. So underwhelming, in fact, that Conduit isn't even banning it. Instead, going for the Jax here as they will slam the Ivern once again.
Yeah, clearly feeling like that went very well for them in game 2. You know, obviously they did get the win. I don't know if the Ivern was necessarily the most important part of that win, but clearly it is something that Jake is pretty comfortable on. So they're going to go ahead and scoop that one up once again. And the Camille, obviously, as we can see, did get banned away by the Ducks. So they are going to force June onto something else. They don't want to see that again, you know, despite the fact that it did lose for the Gremlins in game 1. June was still pretty powerful on the pick.
Are we just going to go ahead and slam something completely off the wall, the Diana Yasuo or something like that? No, it's going to be the Kaisa. All right. I mean, I don't hate Diana as a jungler here. Has good entry, has good disruption potential, but is it necessarily going to have the early pressure to push off an Ivern? I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, she does have a very quick clear speed, right? Diana basically looks at a camp and then it disappears, kind of similar to Ivern in that sense. So, you know, maybe at least you'll be able to, you know, match the tempo and, you know, come in for some counter ganks potentially. We'll have to see what the idea behind the pick is. It is also a little bit of a flex, right? We've been seeing some Diana in the mid lane recently, so can't completely rule out that possibility, I think.
Yeah, it's possible. How do you feel about this Ezreal, though? That's not an ADC we see a whole ton anymore.
Well, it's safe blind, you know. I think Ezreal's in a decent spot right now, not broken or anything like some other AD carries in the game, but the Ezreal I think does have his place, and you know, TDK clearly wanting to go for something with a little bit more agency this time around. That's a little bit safer and should have a higher baseline in terms of output. The Zeri response, though, definitely is a little bit intimidating. I think it's safe to say that the Zeri does outscale the Ezreal significantly.
Yeah, Zeri, though, we talked about this briefly on Emerald last night, it has a little bit of a weird power curve. Because she is so strong, but her first 2 items are generally focused on that attack speed and that on-hit, so she isn't very powerful, unless she's super far ahead or can get a ton of lightning crash stacks, until she hits that 3rd item. And at that point, Ezreal's going to be fairly strong as well, and his ramp-up is a little bit more consistent, so in those 1-item, 2-item fights, if all is even, Ezreal, and especially Ezreal Braum, is going to be a little bit more impactful.
Yeah, that is definitely fair. That's definitely fair. Ezreal kind of is strongest when Zeri is weakest, right at that 2-item mark. So kind of interesting to see there if maybe, you know, Big Ducks are going to be able to take advantage of that spike. I will say, you know, the Braum makes a lot of sense into the Alistar, but the Ezreal Braum pairing isn't something that I'm necessarily in love with, Alls. You know, it's not bad, but...
Here's the thing. This is an almost instant Braum stun. Because of Mystic Shot.
Oh, does Mystic Shot actually proc the Braum passive?
It's an auto hit. It's an auto attack.
Huh. Okay, maybe it is good then. I changed my mind.
Yeah,
Great parry. Well done, Big BDE. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I mean, again, it comes down to the synergy. It comes down to being on top of those callouts. But Not So Dark and Bam have not been entirely... No, I'm sorry. That's Conduit, isn't it?
Uh, yes, Not So Dark
Oof.
is the Conduit support. Well,
It's...
normally the Conduit AD carry, but tonight he's the Conduit support.
It is the
So,
end of the day, folks. Your boy
yeah,
is
yeah.
mentally gone. TDK and Titan, rather, have not
Yes.
exactly been out of sorts, and admittedly, last game was a little bit underwhelming from the Samira, but it wasn't for lack of trying, and it wasn't for lack of combos.
Yeah, definitely the case. I do think they've probably been maybe, I don't know. I mean, big news has been so good for them tonight as well. It feels like it's the sides that are kind of performing right now for BDE. We'll see if they can make it happen. If they can wrap around, complete that big old pincer maneuver, and cut down their opponents. But the Zags can come through here on the R4. So that does still leave us with some questions, right? Zac can also jungle, can also go solo lanes. Hard to really know where the Zac and the Diana are going at this point in time. And the Gremlins, you have to imagine as well, are kind of trying to figure that out. The set is going to be locked away, likely going to be the option in this third game for June.
Yeah, I do like this from BDE because it gives them the fairly safe Zac in the top side if it's into a okay matchup, but also gives them the ability to flex every champion down a slot, Zac into the jungle, Diana into the mid lane, if it's just something that's completely unwinnable. Now, I will admit, I don't see Zac set very often, so I'm not entirely certain how that particular matchup handles.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. On kind of first glance, I feel like the Zac should be able to sustain enough to not really be threatened by the set, who has a lot of burst damage radius, a lot of all-in, and the Zac passive as well should theoretically be pretty useful there, but I don't know. I mean, Set's definitely a stronger duelist, so we'll just have to see. As it looks like that is not, in fact, going to be the matchup alls, as we do see the Ornn locked in here on the R5. Thoughts on that Ornn pick?
Here's my problem now. Where is the sustained damage coming from if Ezreal is not ahead?
Yeah. Even if he is ahead, it can sometimes be hard for Ezreal to hit, right? So, yeah, I agree. Not really in love with the R5 Ornn pick myself, and does
It
feel
may have been an error.
An error?
Yes, we are hearing that may have been DraftLol not playing nice. I will get you further updates when I know. But if it's not Ornn, if it is Trundle, which is apparently the intention here, how do you feel about that?
So the Trundle, obviously, I mean, the Trundle would still leave us with some questions. We still could see the Trundle and the Zac kind of interchangeably flex between the two of them, right, towards the top and jungle roles. I'm not honestly sure what matchup into the set I prefer. The Trundle obviously is going to be able to match the early game much better, and is going to be able to match some of the dueling of the set, and even potentially be able to threaten the side lane later on. But it does feel like kind of the more risky line, right? Where if the set actually wins out against the Trundle in those early trades, then the set can kind of dominate that side lane for quite a while. So I honestly, I'm unsure. I'm unsure how I feel about it all.
I don't mind it. I think it's okay here, because that is the sustained damage that this team needs.
Yeah, certainly more damage than Ornn. Although
Yeah.
he is, Ornn is more of an assassin, really.
He's
Trundle
a mage, assassin,
right.
jungler, everything. Yeah, but Trundle, yeah, he's more of an assassin, but he has the sustained damage, whereas something like Diana, she goes in, she gets the Moonfall, and then she kind of has to stop and wait a bit as she kind of reloads. Trundle, he puts down that frozen domain, and even if he's not getting the chomps out, he's still whacking away with 2.5 attack speed. He's still going absolutely feral, and I think that makes BDE's comp a little bit more palatable for me, because now you have the big beefy front line of Zac Braum, you have the Trundle, who's not going to be easy to kill himself, he's going to be just like that Darius from last game, and you have the Ezreal on the backside to throw out those Mystic shots, just provide covering fire. Yeah, the Swain is still going to be a problem, drain tanking in the front, but
Yeah.
outside of that, and potentially the Zeri if she pops off, and BDE has managed to equalize the bot lane fairly effectively in both the other two games, pardon me, so I don't think she will. There's not a whole lot that Conduit has early to kind of take this game to the cleaners.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty much exactly where I was going to go next, Alls, actually, is towards that Swain, and also towards the Ivern and the Alistar. I feel like it's a lot of healing, it's a lot of peel, it's a lot of shielding as well, all of which Trundle doesn't necessarily have the greatest time against. So, I mean, we'll see. And the Conduit Gremlins, of course, now with momentum as well, after picking up the Game 2 victory, they looked much better in those team fights, right, than the Big Ducks did. So I think that is something that we do need to factor in here as well. I do think that the Conduit Gremlins have the stronger team fighting composition overall with the Zeri hypercarry and all of this frontline, all of this setup. Whereas the Big Ducks, you know, with the Trundle R5, they feel like they have more options towards the side lane, are much better in kind of these smaller skirmishes where maybe if you can catch out one of these kind of more supportive members on the Gremlins by themselves, then you're going to be a little bit more favored in that situation, right? But it feels like a safer draft for the Gremlins to me.
Yeah, it's safer. It's not as volatile, but I do worry that it gives BDE the windows that they took advantage of in Game 1, you know? So,
Okay.
it comes down to whether we see Game 1 or Game 2 BDE, I think, because I think this draft is fairly balanced overall. I think both teams have very clear win conditions, both teams have very structured team fights in regards to what they want to do, and as long as everybody plays their roles well and plays with their team to the best of their ability, this should just be hands checks.
Yeah, I think that is definitely fair to say. That is absolutely going to be the biggest determining factor. You know, it always comes down to the gameplay, right? We can talk about the draft all day, but it only really matters how the players press their buttons and click their mouse on Summoner's Rift. That is what is going to determine the outcome of the game. But the only other thing that I'm really worried about here, Alls, is this mid lane matchup. You know, that, actually, it looks like, according to the client draft here, are we going to be seeing the Zac mid?
That may be possible, and of course, it won't be locked in until 20 seconds before spectator delay, so still a few seconds for BDE to change their minds, but if that is the case, and we're getting some spicy chaos, does that change anything for you? Because Zac into Swain feels fairly Conduit favored, my friend.
It does. It sounds like a lot of free stacks for Swain is mostly what that sounds like to me. But I do think that the Zac is going to be safer than the Diana, right?
That's fair.
Diana, not only are you getting stacks off of her, but you also can maybe kill her if you chunk her down and then, you know, you get the one pull in. If Swain is running Ignite, I don't know if he actually will or not, but there's way more kill pressure there than against a Zac, right? So I feel like especially after that little bit of an off game for Outrage in the last one, I am happier to see the Zac mid than the Diana. But as you say, Alls, it still doesn't feel great.
It's kind of the consequence of having built a draft around that potential to pivot on R5 is sometimes you have to slot things in a little bit of an awkward place. But these off-meta picks are also a little bit hard for the other number because you're not used to the trading patterns. You don't necessarily know when they're going to go in or how. So will be interesting to see how this mid lane turns out and whether the Diana in the jungle can affect it in any meaningful way.
Absolutely. Lots of interesting picks here for this last game, guys. And the previous two games that we've had tonight have both been relatively close. But clearly, I think there has been a better team in each of those games. And it is all going to come down to this one final Nexus. We'll see who is going to get it. The favorites coming in tonight, the Conduit Gremlins, the #1 team. They have not dropped the match all season, Alls. This would be absolutely insane if the Big Ducks can take the match off of them here in week number 9. We'll just see if they can do it, guys. We're going to go into one more short break. We'll be right back. Here we go, guys. Welcome back to good old Summoner's Rift for the last time here in the Season 11 regular split. We do have the Big Ducks back over to the red side. The Conduit Gremlins, the #1 undefeated squad on the blue. See if they can close this one out. We have seen GVG on the Swain in the past as well as earlier this season, and has been extremely successful for them in the past. So we'll see if that is going to continue. I think it's a good game for the Swain for sure.
Yeah, I could throw out a never move, get an extra stack here, but choosing to have a dance party instead. Appreciate the show of good sportsmanship.
Definitely. Yeah, love to see it. So we just need some thumbs up to complete this wonderful picture.
But no chaos to be had in the early game here. A little bit disappointing as Titan on this Braum has a great level 1 with the Winner's Bite
True.
and that Frosty Stacks passive.
Very true. Yeah, and I think it is also true that, again, we're going to have to lean a little bit towards the Gremlins in terms of that scaling conversation, right? They've got the Zeri and the Ivern to power her up versus, I mean, what do you have on the other side? You've got Diana, Ezreal. Those are not the most reliable late-game carries. Oh, that first never move is going to land. That's big.
Yeah, it's all about the psychological damage on those first never moves. Getting the early
really
stacks is nice, though.
Yes, obviously that is going to also be beneficial, but I am a big believer that Swain is one of those champions. A lot of the hook champions are similar, right? Where if you land those first couple of skill shots, you start to get in your opponent's head, and it just gets easier to land them later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Big news, gets level 2 first, is going in pretty hard here, but Jun, not far behind, already has the Haymaker just about charged up, and not a huge win for the Trundle so far.
Now we do have the extra combat summoner for big news on the Trundle, going for the Ghost Flash here as opposed to the Teleport Flash for June. So clearly big news, hoping to get some work done in the 1v1 with this R5 pick once again. Remember the Mordekaiser on game 1. Big news was the difference maker for the Ducks.
Yeah, and we saw the Ghost Flash work last game on June, so a history already as the Cell Division is popped here in mid lane.
Oh dear, GVG looking for the early first blood. Even Jake moving over just for good measure, but not going to be in time to get the assist. The shield would have given Ivern the assist, but GVG said no, that's not going to happen. This one's all mine. Executes Outrage for the very early first blood.
Yeah, and the concern starting to build already here for me, crewman. I think Outrage may have just been kind of slotted in on this one because it doesn't feel like he's super comfortable in the mid lane so far.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty much the worst possible start for BDE in that mid lane. That's a nice Mystic shot, going to complete the concussive blows onto Bam. But now Jake is here and be able to provide a little bit of shielding. Says Ghost down. Actually, Ezreal is also running the Ghost this game. So both Ghosts utilized. And also the flash from the Alistar. Extinction waiting in the bush here. Will find the Ivern. Winter's Bite is going to land. That's going to force out the flash. Type of Pulverize. Decent onto 2. TDK has the flash away, running out of mana as well. But the last auto attack is going to come through. It's a trade. A 1-for-1. But the Ezreal is the one who dies for BDE. They're looking to take down Zeri as well. But they can't quite make it happen. And Jake's going to find the Root Caller. He's on top of the... Oh, Winter's Bite! Braum snipes out Bam. A 2-for-2 in the bot lane. Another Root Caller. A chance, perhaps? No. Both junglers will live. Big wave coming in towards this BDE turret. Jake wants to try to push it in, but don't think the Ivern's actually going to be able to get that one all the way in. Ezreal should be able to make it back plenty of time.
What a strange fight, crewman.
That was a funky one, yeah, for sure.
I didn't notice it at first as we loaded into this game, but it sure feels like we're in a graveyard with how many ghosts are in the Rift right now.
Ooh, nice.
Big news, TDK, GVG, and BAM. So that's 4 taken here. Means a whole lot less TPs than we're used to.
Very, very true. Yeah, it does kind of make us think that maybe we're not going to see as much team fighting, right, in this game. But maybe we still will. You know, as the teams have definitely been opting into a lot of those team fights in the previous 2 games. Definitely feels like that is mostly how they want to be playing things out, you know, just as their respective teams. But definitely the Summoner Spell choice this time around doesn't necessarily facilitate that as much.
Yeah, counterpoint though may facilitate more, in fact, as the teams group up more after we get out of the lane phase and deprioritize the split pushing a bit.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't really thinking about it that way. The teleport allows you to join up from the side lane, but if you don't have the teleport, maybe you just never go to the side lane in the first place. So, yeah, fair point, Ols. We'll just have to wait and see how the teams want to play it out, as the mid laners will take over to level 6 simultaneously. Although wave control obviously still going to be in GVG's favor, at least to Outrage's credit. We're managing to stay even in CS, right? So not falling too far behind despite giving over that first blood.
Yeah, and Not So Dark has roamed up a few times here, hasn't been able to find anything, so this is a lot of time that BAM hasn't been having that additional help and hasn't been getting any pressure towards that 2-3 item point where they need to be ahead, so good pressure draw, if nothing else, by Outrage, as looks like Conduit starting to look for that
that was
Stax's Outrage.
Slingshot was interrupted. He still has no passive. GVG, though, is running low on mana. And that extra blob coming through will mean Outrage has enough HP to survive here. Oh, going in, actually, with the Slingshot. The Demonic Ascension is going to get popped. GVG, a little bit of healing, but it's not enough. Outrage, with the return kill, finds his own 1v1. We're all tied up 3-3.
All right, sure. Why not? That's definitely the fight we expected from this mid laners, right? We definitely expected this lane to just get completely outplayed.
Definitely. Outrage has been, so good overall for the Ducks and subbing in about halfway through the season. And it was very uncharacteristic to see that kind of messy performance in game number 2. So really great to see him able to bounce back and find that return solo kill in the mid lane. It gives them the priority to go for the dragon. As going to be a Hextech Dragon over to the Big Ducks. But on the other side of the map, Jake did manage to secure all 3 Kevins. So once again, a trade of those neutrals extinction. The lane gank. Oh, Dark is going to go for the play, not knowing Diana was in the bush. Bam, no flash, no hope. Taken down. TDK picking up his first. Looking for number 2 as well underneath the turret. The true shot barrage for the finishing blow. And that's going to be the Big Duck Entourage opening up a lead.
Yeah, it does come at the cost of Trundle on the top side as Jake finds the gank up there, but still great job by Extinction. Beautiful lane gank and a little bit of poor map awareness from the bot lane of Gremlins. You know that Diana was just in the bot river taking that Drake. You have to be aware that she could be in the area to join those fights.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I want to give most of the credit there to Extinction. Really sneaky. Getting in there for the lane gank. I mean,
Absolutely.
The side of the Gremlins should have known that Diana was somewhere in the area, but they really had no way of knowing that she was going to be in that bush right next to them. So,
very true.
Definitely well played there. And they are rewarded, picking up the 2-0 in that bot lane skirmish. And now Ezreal's going to be off to a nice little lead, already closing in on that first item.
Yeah, and, I hate to harp on it, but this is where you start to worry about that trough for Zeri, where when she gets behind into that 2-item point, she just doesn't have a ton of damage, doesn't have a ton of capacity to put out numbers. It's gonna put a lot of pressure in these fights onto GVG to be the major damage carry until we get to probably closer to that 30-minute point. GVG getting engaged on here.
Oh. Yeah, it does get out the Demonic Ascension, so it's going to have a little bit of healing here. Pretty close to the turret as well, but it's so much burst damage from the Diana, and that is going to be enough Extinction going underneath the turret. They're taking a couple of shots, but will survive. Picks up another kill onto the Swain, and the Big Ducks, they're looking good. They're coordinated. They're taking over some control in these lanes. Big News had a lot of pressure up here in top lane as well, about a 15 CS advantage at the moment for the Trundle.
I want to take a look at Outrage's items, or rather, lack thereof. He's only spent 900 gold so far.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time in this lane. Sitting on just that one Null Magic Mantle and the D Shield, but clearly it's enough, at least for now, as the subjugate in the top lane, the Showstopper in response, but Big News with the big kill. It's going to be all 3 lanes now winning out for the Ducks. They have full control over Summoner's Rift at the moment.
Yeah, and I think we've been sleeping a little bit on the power of that jump, of the flat AD reduction. It's a huge amount of power in these trades, especially against a champ like Sett that's so reliant on those auto attacks to deal sustained damage here. And seeing it come out, and look at that CS gap. Trundle has just been fully dominant up here from start to finish.
Definitely true. I mean, that's exactly why. Glacial Fisher in the bot lane. Alistar still level 5, doesn't have those extra resists. Another kill over to TDK with the ultimate once again, and here comes Extinction. Bam knows, though. Saw the Diana walk over a ward, knows that he cannot stick around underneath this turret. Will survive, but this is going to be some golden XP denied to the Zeri, and the Ezreal now is going to be so far ahead.
Yeah, gonna get a couple of plates here, gonna get a ton of pressure, and Zeri just absolutely cratered at this point in terms of power. Feels like this lane is completely in favor of TDK and Titan. And we're seeing those concussive blow stacks so valuable. Not So Dark with 100% health when Braum started stacking that, and over the course of just a single 3-second trade was taken entirely to nothing.
Yeah, that is the power of the Ezreal Braum. You know, don't sleep on it, guys. It's once again big news going for the 1v1 in the top lane. Has the flash still, and Set, I think, still holding on to the haymaker there. So Trundle knows he cannot chase underneath the turret, but big news with that R5 pick. I mean, this is exactly why he went for it, right? You're able to scrap with the Set, and he's winning.
Yeah, we are seeing a little bit of jungle pressure, though, as Jake gets all 6 grubs, so not entirely a win here for Big News. Slammed into the turret, actually.
Oh, that is going to be Alistar taken down on the other side of the map there. All 6 grubs will go over to Jake and the rest of the Gremlins. But we have our second dragon spawning imminently here, and this almost certainly will go the way of the big ducks. See what kind of soul we get for this game. It's not going to be a Chemtech.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you glad that we finally get something different for a change?
Yeah, it is very exciting, and I think pretty exciting for the ducks as well. I don't know, what do you think is the best soul that they could get? Infernal, maybe?
Hextech. Oh, Hextech's
not an option.
I can read. Yeah, I think Infernal's the best of the remainder, and that's exactly what they're going to get. Is Not So Dark is going to die again, potentially, here, forced to flash away towards that blast gun.
Yeah, it does get away. Still level 5 on the Alistar to level 7 for Titan's Braum. They're going to come in here. Not going to look for stretching strikes. GVG is totally fine for now. But yeah, I mean, Dark was trying to have that impact on the map very early, but it's definitely cost him. And those deaths as well, unfortunately, meant the Alistar has just not been able to get very much experience. Close to level 6 now. We'll take over after a couple more minions go down here. But yeah, definitely still pretty far behind in this bot lane.
Looking towards the top side, though, we do see Jake looking to engage here. Has the Root Collar available, but no real angle on the Big News.
Yeah, our next objective is going to be Shelly in about 30-45 seconds. See who's going to have control. It's likely going to be the Big Ducks. I mean, Outrage has really rallied in this mid lane and has had first move now for the past several minutes.
Yeah, pushing around GVG at this point. Rylai's is powerful, but not exactly a ton of combat stats outside of that slow, so GVG not quite as powerful as they felt in that level 1 with the First Blood.
Yeah, definitely the case. Oh, the Swain will... Oh my goodness, another close call in the bot lane. Dark will survive this time around, but the Swain will scale reasonably well, right, once he does get a couple more items online, and it is still a great composition for him to be playing into, right? All of these melee characters, he is going to get a ton of value from the ultimate. So, assuming that the side of the Gremlins don't continue to fall further behind, they are absolutely still going to have an avenue to win out in these team fights later on.
Yeah, assuming they don't fall behind, though, 14.5-minute first turret is not a recipe for not falling behind, and losing Rift Herald on top of that just adds more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I mean, TDK is crazy strong right now on this Ezreal. Does he have 2 items? Is he waiting for it? No, just going for the Lucidity boots for now. Still, I mean, he's going to be pretty close, though. What's the cost for combining the components there for the Monomoon? He just needs, was it a pickaxe, and then, or is it just a longsword?
I believe it's just a longsword. The total cost for Monomoon is somewhere in the range of 27, I believe, so he should be sitting at around 12, maybe 1,300 gold away. So,
yeah,
next back.
Yeah, so pretty soon for the Ezreals. GVG is going to be forced into the Demonic Ascension once again, getting chunked out by this Zac, who just has way more sustain than the Swain. It turns out it turned out to be a pretty good counter pick, actually, for Outrage.
Yeah, and the capacity to walk away, which is something that we see a lot of players just forget that they can do, is click away from the Swain and not feed into the Demonic Ascension. That really helps as well.
It sure does. As Extinction riding the Herald there. Ooh, Dark not quite able to find the angle on the headbutt. Now Extinction with the re-engage. Looking for the move here. True Shot Barrage over the top. Only onto the Alistar, though, who will eventually, will survive, actually. But everybody on the side of the Big Ducks will survive as well. Very close call. In comes Outrage with the Elastic Slingshot. Can't quite get the other strike down, though. Not able to stretch in there and actually get the CC. Oh my goodness, the showstopper in. June finds the kill onto the Diana. The Haymaker not going to be able to finish anybody off, but the extended fight will go the way of the Gremlins. They're able to get that one kill.
Yeah, they do get a kill, but they sack a turret to Big News and additional pressure here in the top side because that was a 4v5 all the way through here, crewman. So in terms of actual gold value, it's pretty close to even.
Big News taking a bite out of the set here. In comes Dark, finds the headbutt pulverize. Goes popped first for Big News. Going to go for the subjugate now onto the set. June still trying to fight. 1v1 with the Trundle. One more top. Oh, Big News with the 1v2. June subjugated. Still tried to stand and fight and will pay for it. It is still a 1-for-1 as Not So Dark able to get the last hit on the Troll, but they certainly wanted more there for the side of the Gremlins.
Yeah, and that was a fight taken at a disadvantage if you're Conduit, because look at June's items. He has the Hole Breaker. He doesn't want Dark to be there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe those extra resistances would have been enough, although obviously the CC from the Alistar was very valuable as well, so tough to say how differently that fight would have gone if it was just the 1v1. I mean, Trundle has been winning out in the 1v1 for most of the game, right? So, I mean, I don't hate the call from Gremlins, but Big News just outplayed him.
Yeah, absolutely. Has done quite well on the Trundle so far this game, despite a whole lot of attention, pardon me, from the entirety of Conduit towards this top lane.
We are going to see the Gremlins start up this Dragon now. They want to prevent the side of the Big Ducks from getting up to Infernal Soul Point. Would be absolutely massive for the Big Ducks if they can get this Dragon. Extinction zoned out for now. Doesn't have Flash. Does have Ultimate, though. They could go for the team fight. The CC down onto Jake. The Halford potentially in trouble. Dark trying to find some space on the front line. GVG as well in the Demonic Ascension, but the Swain is just not doing the damage just yet. The kill's already starting to come through the Big Ducks. They're winning out in the team fight. It's only GVG left, and he can't get it done all by himself. Ivern is technically still alive, but forced to run for the hills. Infernal Soul Point will come through, and the Big Ducks are looking really good in this game number 3. Another solo kill. Oh, but the set able to turn it around with the Haymaker. June finally able to punch back in that top lane, but it might be a little bit too late.
Yeah, and honestly, crucial play from Big News. Even if he did lose the ensuing fight, the fact that he stopped the port from June onto the back of that team fight. Can you imagine what it would have looked like if a showstopper had come in, bringing TDK into the front lines there? Would have been a completely different fight. So the fact that that was interrupted, the fact that June could not join, and it was a true 4v4 from start to finish, absolutely crucial.
Absolutely huge. You're very right about that, Alls. As, yeah, I mean, now that the Big Ducks, they're up to Infernal Soul Point. They have themselves a nice little 4K gold advantage as well. They are cruising right now in this game, looking poised and ready to hand the Conduit Gremlins their first loss of the season here, the last week of the round robin. They are looking good. The Big Ducks, we were so worried for them as well after last week. We looked a very uncoordinated showing, and even in game 2 tonight as well, they looked a little bit out of sorts, but this team, when they're on, they are so on.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we have to give credit where credit is due to the change in the middle of the season with Outrage. And yeah, we dragged it early, but overall, this Zac has been so impressive in keeping GVG from becoming a problem.
Yeah, as long as we don't see Outrage on Azir, feeling really good about it. No doubt.
Hey,
As,
draw the bans. Draw the bans. That's all you gotta do.
There you go. There you go. And against GVG Swain as well, a pick that he's looked so good on. but able to neutralize it here with the Zac is so massive. We're trying our hand against the set now, and we are going to go in with this Elastic Slingshot. We do have some cavalry coming in. Extinction on the Diana should have enough damage to take down this set. Showstopper is available, but they're not giving June a good angle to go for. The Haymaker will come out, gets Diana down to about 50%. The Showstopper doesn't really take the set where he wants to go, and Diana will pick up her 4th of the game.
Yeah, it's going to come at the cost of this mid-tier 1, though, crewman. So some good map pressure that will be available to Conduit as a result. But look at this TP from Zac. They want to collapse. They want to make this an interesting fight.
Yeah, they're flanking here. Conduit Gremlins getting closed in on from both sides. Outrage finds the stretchy strike onto Bam. Does get the CC down. The follow-up's not there immediately. Let's Bounce coming out now, but the Zeri's kiting back, creating that space. Outrage, I believe, does have the pass right now. Extinction goes in, look for it. Bam flashes away from the moonfall, cleans up the Diana. Outrage goes back in. Where's the follow-up, though? Nobody else can get on top of the Zeri. Zac's into the passive. It's just TDK on the back line now. Ezreal shifting forward, trying to get this damage down onto the Alistar, but the Zac's been cleaned up for a double kill. Big news now coming in from the flank. It's now the Trundle's turn to see if he can take over the team fight. Is going to be able to take down Ivor for the double kill, and nicely placed Pillar as well. Bam finally is going to get taken down. Big news is just too big. Coming in on the Troll King and taking over the team fight.
Yeah, may have been a little bit slow to rotate over, but that's because he was taking down GVG first, making sure the Swain could not be part of that fight. Sure, you lose the mid-turret, but what a way to get value back there. And Outrage buying so much time, buying so much space as the Disruptor here. Not a role you see often from mid laners, but filling it quite well.
Absolutely. It looked a little bit scary for a second there when they weren't able to get on top of Bam. That's exactly how this Gremlins comp wants to play, right? Everybody peel for Zeri. Zeri gets to kite back. If she can free hit, that is the way that Conduit Gremlins can win these team fights. And it looked for a second like she was going to be able to do that, but it was big news on the flank, shutting that down.
Yeah, doesn't have the TP, remember, so this is entirely based on his reads of the map and being in the right area. So critical that they are on top of it, that they are communicating, that they are all 5 ready for these fights.
Absolutely. Was the game 1 POG as well, right? And we're singing his praises here once again. Not even the starting top laner for this team, but having such a huge impact and such a big match for them. There is even a chance, remember, where they could sneak up into 5th place if Goon Squad Gaming lose tonight against the other Conduit team. So yeah, I mean, this could even move them up a little bit in the standings if they do manage to get this upset win. And Infernal Soul is coming up now, Alls. This is the game right here, I would argue.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't get this dragon. I mean, that's Infernal Diana with, or Ezreal Diana with Infernal Soul. Like, that's going to be so impossible to fight against. Here comes June. Teleporting in on the set, looking to go for this 5v5. The Dragon's already getting burned down. It's down to about 50%. Can Jake somehow get into the pit? He doesn't have flash. He's getting zoned away. The Infernal Soul goes over. And now the team fight surely will go the way of the big ducks. It's GVG demonically ascended trying to make it happen. Bam is able to free hit for now. Takes down the Diana. It is going to be a kill onto the Ivern as well. But look at these health bars are still going strong. Oh, never mind. Actually, GVG is healing up a lot off of this front line. The Heva Pulverize comes through. But no, the Infernal Soul will do its work in the end. The big ducks clean it up. Triple kill over to TDK. And they can look for Baron next.
Yeah, ping's going down. Outrage should be able to heal up just fine. I mean, look at those chunks. 300 per bloblet.
Oh,
and not even coming to this Baron confident in big news to be able to be the tank at first. And I mean, it's not like they're going to be contested, so this is perfectly fine here. Great play, and they're even going to get it on all 5 as Extinction respawns to make it go from bad to worse for Conduit. There's still technically hope. You can hope for the throw, you can hope for some chaos here, but as it is, short of just a complete misplay throughout the rest of the game from this BDE squad, this should be the first match loss that Conduit has suffered in the entire season.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And I think what makes this even more impressive is the fact that it's not like the Gremlins are just like misplaying left and right this time around and like making all these stupid mistakes. It really does feel like the Big Duck Entourage are just outplaying them. Like they are playing better than their opponents, finding so many of these angles. They're finding another one in the mid lane right now. Another double kill over to TDK, as that was Bam and Dark just extended too far down the lane. You have to give over control from this position. You know, the enemy team has Soul and Baron. You're just walking up past your turret to farm a minion wave like that. They're just giving over more gold, and now June is out of position. TDK goes legendary on the Ezreal. 9-1-7 right now. This base will surely be broken into. Big News has already done it. I didn't even realize the Trundle has already destroyed the first inhibitor. They're on to the mid lane now next.
Looking for the fight here. GVG's already caught out. This should be the game.
Cleaning him up. Easy as you like. Diana comes in with a Moonfall. Way too much damage with that Infernal Soul. Just one-shots both of them. And this is it. This is going to be the game. The most one-sided game of the night. Game number 3. The Big Duck Entourage with an incredible showing this last week before playoffs. They might just be a force to be reckoned with. Perhaps even a title contender.
Yeah, it's a long shot. They got a lot of ways to climb before they get to that point. But certainly making argument for it here as they come down with authority onto this Conduit squad.
Just, oh man, I mean, we can't sing their praises enough. What an amazing showing for them. I mean, and after last week as well, they come in here and they make it happen against the formerly undefeated team. Everybody playing well, everybody stepping up, but Big News especially in the top lane, just doing so much work for the team.
Yeah, Big News was incredible, but I also want to give credit because, you know, you were a little bit unsure. Even I was a little bit hesitant with the Ezreal Braum pairing just because they'd been a little bit shaky in terms of actually getting ahead and shutting down Bam on these champions. But TDK and Titan on point with their combos, absolutely together in lockstep all throughout the game. And the score lines just prove it. 18.0 KDA for TDK, 20.0 for Titan. Those are incredible numbers. They looked utterly fantastic down there.
Absolutely. You know, they got a little bit of help from Extinction, but they were decidedly winning that 2v2 in this last game. I think there's no doubt about that. And big credit to them as well. You're absolutely right. Do you think TDK sneaks out this Game 3 POG away from Big News?
I do think so. You know, there's a part of me that wants to give it to Titan because TDK doesn't win it without the concussive blow stacks. But at the end of the day, it is still the Ezreal. It's still the positioning and the choice to know when to play aggressive and when to back off that really made that lane shine.
Yeah, I agree. TDK played a great game on the Ezreal, but I would personally argue that the team was just doing a phenomenal job of setting up for him and like engaging onto these targets and creating that space for him to shift forward, right? Which he did beautifully and did obviously top out those damage charts at just under 28k in a 26-minute game. So I think, you know, certainly a great game from TDK and a great game from all of these Ducks. All the Ducks flying high tonight also.
Yeah, absolutely in rows here, just marching through the rift as they all have already punched their ticket to the playoffs, of course, but now have a chance to move up, perhaps get a slightly higher seed, and most certainly put a little bit of fear into Conduit Gremlins, knowing that the first place team is vulnerable. That's got a lot of value that you don't necessarily see just from the match scoreline.
Absolutely, yeah. And if this is the first round playoff match that we end up seeing, I mean, this is gonna give a lot of people some pause, right? We're gonna have, I think, some very interesting looking bracket predictions, you know, as a result of this match. The Big Ducks, I mean, I don't think anybody really expected them to come in here and get this win. Unfortunately, it looks like the Goon Squad did pick up the 2-0. So the Big Ducks not going to be able to catch them in the standings. It will be 6th place for BDE, but still playoff bound. And I mean, you've already proven you can hang with the top dogs. So they've got a very decent shot of making a deep run here.
Yeah, absolutely. But only time will tell. They will likely face off against the 3rd place team, who has yet to be decided, as those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place spots were all jumbled up, just 1 point separating them. So we will have to see where those results come in before we see who BDE is playing. But any final thoughts here, crewman, before we call it a night?
I mean, not too much, I guess, in the way of reflection. We definitely had some drama this season. There were a couple of tragedies that happened to a couple of certain teams that were very unfortunate. But we saw some really cool stories as well. I think the Big Ducks being a great example of that, where they were struggling so much early on, right? But then they just had that addition of outrage. They had that kind of turnaround in the middle of the season where suddenly they started picking up all these wins, and here they are. They find themselves in the playoffs at the end of it all. So I think that's something really cool to watch out for. I think Dynasty, Agni Kai, and still the Conduit Gremlins, all looking incredibly fearsome. As we move into those playoffs as well. So I think it's going to be a really exciting postseason. It's been really fun to cast the regular season here as well. We also did have a couple of weeks we weren't able to stream due to technical issues and that sort of thing. But overall, it's been really fun to follow all these teams and to kind of watch them develop over the course of the season. Any final thoughts from you, Wolves?
No, I think you've covered just about everything. I'm excited to see these playoffs. I think there's been a lot of pressure on these teams to perform despite, as you said, some rough situations. But now, with all the marbles on the line, it's win or go home. And when the big men are vulnerable, everybody is. So lots of chaos to be had, lots of fun, and next few weeks are going to be great.
They certainly are. It's going to be awesome, guys. You definitely aren't going to want to miss the rest of the season here. But that's going to do it for tonight's show and for our coverage of the regular split. So from myself, from all here, from the entire staff at BOL, thank you guys very much for watching. We appreciate every single one of you. Do not forget that tomorrow we have the Gold and Diamond Leagues. Those are going to be the semifinals, I believe, for both of those leagues. So be sure to tune in tomorrow night as well. Catch that BOL action. But from us tonight, thank you for watching. We will see you in playoffs.